Hello, everyone. I'm Emery Smith, and welcome to another edition of Cosmic Television Network here on our YouTube channel. You can also follow us on Cosmic Disclosure Alliance as well. And if you want to sign up for more of these webinars, you can go to emerysmith.co as well. And we have also webinars that are already posted there from the past that you can kind of look at. But for the most part, we try to do a webinar every Sunday, or at least 2 to 3 times per week, per month, I mean, and get you some really cool, valuable information, cutting edge stuff. All the people that I bring on here, I've either known for quite a while or have been recently introduced through projects and other, events that are unfolding on our planet. So I just want to also make a disclaimer here. Nothing that we mention, on these webinars are used to treat or cure any disease. None of these products are FDA approved or anything. So we do mention certain solutions sometimes, and we just want to make that clear that you do have to check with your medical practitioner if you have any questions like that. We're not authorized to do that. So welcome, everyone. I want to thank everyone here. I can see on the chat here, and we have a very exciting day. We have YssaH Libien and we have Trevor Millar, and these two individuals are very dynamic. I've known Trevor over a decade, working with him at Taurus Tech with Nassim Hermine, and I've also recently this year have met with YssaH, and these guys have been, really elbow deep in the Mexican artifacts that you see, these carvings, these artifacts from all over the world. And it's great because the amount of testing that Trevor Millar has done is quite extensive, and a lot of our colleagues out there, I'll say, in other organizations, they get their information from Trevor. So we were working on this project about a decade ago with Nassim and his project there, and it was really a fascinating time. And we'll show you some of those pictures from back in the day. And I kind of met Trevor through that avenue because I was having my over Unity free energy device tested by Nassim's crew, and at the time, so it was great to go from one aspect and into archaeology. Just a plethora of amazing stuff that's going to be happening, and you guys are really going to enjoy this and be educated a lot on what are these artifacts and the ins and outs. And we're also going to be touching maybe on some other current events that are happening, like the Bugosphere. We do have an update with YssaH with that as well. So with no further ado, I want to welcome YssaH and Trevor to the show.
Hey, gang.
There we go. Excellent, excellent. Welcome, guys. Good to see your faces again.
Oh, good to
It's always fun to have. And what's interesting about this being so dynamic, everyone, is that Trevor and YssaH have been following each other, but never really got a chance to really talk on the same channel and ask their own questions, because they both are so well adapted and rehearsed in this. They both have questions, and it was fun talking to them both off camera separately, and they were just really excited for each other. They're actually so excited about each one. So it was really cool to see that dynamic. And because it's rare that we do more than 3 people on the show, and we do that, rarely. But when you have experts in the field with these artifacts, it's important that we get you the truth, the right information. And if there's any other questions between this head group here, we like to discuss it in front of you guys. And we have questions, I have questions, we all have questions. So, wow, here we are. I'll tell you. Trevor, let's start with you. How did you get involved with these artifacts? I mean, not the 3-day story.
No, of course. I had the pleasure of working with Nassim Hermine for 3.5 years. And at the time, when I started working, he had already acquired a significant collection of artifacts. It's worth mentioning that Klaus Dona is the original source, the original connection to this collection of artifacts that Nassim was connected to. So in my time at the lab, we really did some novel and groundbreaking research. This is 2019, 2018 at the time. This image that's being shared is one of our first sample groups where we were doing radiocarbon dating on these artifacts. So years and years down the road, the data and the evidence has really built upon itself. But this is some of the first testing that I was involved with that set me on this course and gave me a very unique and very intimate relationship with the artifacts, not from, you know, a direct experience with researching them at a laboratory, in a laboratory setting.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember back in the day when I was there. There's a funny picture. Maybe Cameron will post it up there.
Yeah.
When we were going through these collection of 300, I remember walking into the room and they were all sprawled out on all these tables and the floors. And I thought I was walking into this like museum, you know, at Forest Tech, going, "Wow, this was pretty amazing." And then that's when you held up the dagger, you know, and then we took the picture with the dagger, and that forever right there is where it started with, you know, with me getting involved and watching you find out this information and making all these connections with other scientists and archaeologists that were helping you, you know, get this information of the materials, you know, analyzing and carbon dating and all that stuff. I think that was pretty amazing. I think how that kind of unfolded.
Something that's worth mentioning is that our laboratory was designed, this is our original sample group, the image that's being shared, but our laboratory was designed to fabricate or develop quantum physical technologies, technologies that interact with the quantum vacuum. That was our bread and butter, okay? So this was, you know, sort of like the skunk works. It was something that was not talked about. It was something that we were doing behind the scenes. And because Nassim had so much going on and I was the lead lab technician, I was involved with all of those projects, like the one that you shared about your device. And when we were conducting the research, I was the lead. I was in contact with all of these labs around the world. So, you know, I have to give gratitude to Nassim because he gave me the opportunity to really put my hands on the steering wheel and, you know, physically conduct all of the research. So, for example, I've 3D scanned and cataloged all 300 of his pieces. So the amount of time that I've spent around these pieces in that laboratory setting is significant. And along the way, we've collaborated with other researchers from Russia, Japan, Mexico. So I kind of came in at a really unique trajectory, and it set my course thus far.
Yeah, it's an amazing story. And that's the short version, everyone. And I just really thankful that we're still in contact and are able to get all this hard work you put into this over many, many years now out to the public. And thanks for, you know, risking yourself many times on these expeditions, as well as we know how risky it is. both you know how risky this is. And so you guys are archaeological heroes in my book, and it's time that everyone gets to hear you guys speak about, you know, the accomplishments, these great accomplishments that you guys have made. How about you, YssaH? How did you get involved with this?
Well, just before going to leave to Egypt, I was introduced by someone who collect artifacts. So he had 3 crystal skulls, big ones. One that definitely caught my attention at an energetic level, to say it somehow. The energy that it was emitting, it was impressive. I even kept having dreams with that skull after nights of meeting it with it.
Yes.
So then it just took my attention, like interestingly enough, on one side, even though I have this very scientific approach to everything that I do, at that moment, for me, there was no question. There was as if I had seen something that I hadn't seen in like a lot of years ago, and just reconnecting with it. So then I left, I went to Egypt, and then there again, a lot of artifacts started to come to me without even me looking for it. That's also, when I met Nassim, and I work a lot of with the coding ancient
Right.
tech, um, a lot of things regarding to ancient civilizations, and always putting it from a unified approach, bringing in science and spirituality, together. So then I came back to Mexico, and again, there were the artifacts already waiting for me. People started to like approaching me, again, me without even looking for it. I had also like a lot of information of how people is dealing with artifacts in Egypt, like Sahi Hawass, like
Yeah.
90% of his findings are, shut down and put into or sold, you know,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, and but they don't even disclose it, they're just
Right.
shutting down that information. And yeah, many stories about him. But I had the opportunity to be with one of the biggest and greatest Egyptologists, and that had been collaborating with him in some of the diggings. So he told me about impressive technology, like things took out from the movie, from the sci-fi movie, like this red mercury, but not as cinnabar, but as the fluid mercury, in red color, which that was very interesting, in devices like spheres running,
Wow.
without even you moving it, like moving by itself. And then mummies with tails, a lot of them, a lot, like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them, and among many other things. So then when I came back to Mexico, as I was telling you, like immediately people started looking, like connecting with me. So I had the fortune to meet the elders here in Mexico, which are, many of them are actually the ones delivering this information, because it's not new for them. They grew with this information, and even more, have seen spaceships with their own eyes. They know many stories of other spaceships that at some point crashed in the
Right.
areas they live close by, and the
Yeah.
military forces, like taking it, like hiding it all, covering it all. So then and then a friend of mine that I got to meet in a conference that I was invited to present on, he brought like a lot of artifacts in the United States. And I was like, okay, because they were from Ojuelos. So, I just started, and some of them were like interstellar maps. So I started, like tuning into the space memory network and all, where they were branching to, like all that nexus. And it was impressive. Then we became friends. Then he came to Mexico, and then he invited me to go on an expedition, to say it somehow. And that's where I lived it firsthand. What is to see artifacts coming out of Earth, and taking into consideration um, many constants, many details that are very important, because, as you both know, there are many reasons why people could try to like debunk this,
Right.
you know. But on the other hand, there are also many ways that this cannot be denied.
Of course.
You know, you have the lab tests when you take the time, you know, the funding and so forth to do that. Then you have also now all these things happening, the Bugosphere, you know, and of course you have then all the content that like you, Emery, have been sharing about all the non-spoken things.
Mm-hmm.
So regardless, this is imminent. This is undeniable.
Yes.
This is inevitable, you know? So
Yeah,
How
it's
exciting.
yeah, it
yeah.
is. It's so exciting times right now. And I love dropping the bomb on these things, especially 6 months from now. A lot of things we say now are all going to come true. It's just, these are the catalysts. People like yourselves and myself were catalysts to get the information out and to spark new interests so it will be investigated. So it's not just the three of us on the planet doing this. There's a group collective, and I'm just being facetious here, but there is a beautiful group collective being put together, as you guys know, because they're on your teams, to really get more information about this. So I think we can start with the question I have for both of you is like, where are we at today now that we've have a decade behind us and we have all this new information, all this new testing, we have more people coming out revealing more artifacts, and artifacts that have been also kept, I don't know if I could talk about this, have been kept from the public for many years, and we're talking giant megalithic carvings, and we're going to get into how we make that. So where are we at today, Trevor, as far as the testing and stuff? Like, what's the most up-to-date thing you want to share with everyone?
Well, I've shared a lot of content that we can pan through that's actually quite nitty-gritty in terms of the science around the artifacts. But
yeah.
I do want to acknowledge that it's such an interesting convergence and a paradigm shifting moment that we're living in, because the Bugosphere is very unique because it's in civilian hands, civilian scientists, that is, right? Otherwise, many of these things, you don't hear about them. It's tall tales. This is a physical object that has been studied and verified to a great extent. At the same time, we have these really interesting archaeological discoveries in the Mesoamerican area that have direct symbolic and physical links to each other. So it seems like it's bursting at the seams. It seems like the disclosure or the recognition of these ancient technologies or modern technologies is really at our doorstep. And my research independently has been a bit of a roller coaster, but I have a lot of people to thank who've supported essentially to do the laboratory research on these artifacts. It's something that has to be done in a very specific way, and generally is only done through private laboratories. So that's not cheap, and the universities won't touch it. So this year, the crux of my research has been characterizing and showing that these ancient artifacts are actually an engineered material. They're a chemically manufactured material. YssaH brought up the crystal skulls, and the audience, I've shared so many photos that I hope we'll be flipping through later, but I can't blame you as the audience, because this stuff is very unseen. There aren't a lot of resources to do the deep dive. I know YssaH's seen big collections. I've seen massive collections. So we're not talking about 3 or 4 or a dozen pieces. We're talking about 20,000 plus. And this is in Mexico only. We're not talking about Peru or Colombia, it's really amazing. So, this, as YssaH had also touched upon, the idea of debunking it or Swiss cheesing the whole project. Of course, there are a lot of valid skeptic points, as anyone should have, but the overwhelming evidence really does suggest that they are genuine and they are of great antiquity. And the real kicker behind that is they clearly show the genetic hybridization of our species. They clearly show faster than light travel. They clearly show UFOs. I mean, it's I think YssaH really brings such a great skill set to this as well, because there is an energetic quality to these artifacts, not just physical science, but actually they interact with the field, the unified field, our consciousness. So they're tools, they're talismans, and they certainly radiate energy. Actually, this year I discovered that they're weakly radioactive. So we can measure that and say, yes, there is energy emitting from the pieces. But beyond that, there are also other forms of showing that they do interact with the field. This image that's being shared now is one of our first carbon dating analysis from 2019 with Nassim. And if you pan down a bit, you'll see the calculated age is at roughly 8,500 years old. So even at that time, we were pretty astonished. It wasn't the first time. Nassim was one of the first people to carbon date these pieces. And basically, the sample that's being processed are resins. They're glues, because many of these pieces are mosaics or feature inlays. So the glue does contain organic carbon. That's what's being measured here, and it shows to be 8,000 to 9,000 years old. This year, I've developed other ways to date the artifacts that have given even older dates. So in our sample group, this is one of the pieces. And, at the time, I will mention that many of these artifacts have been hacked away at for the sake of science, to really to understand how they were made, what they're made of. So this inlay was drilled out of that artifact, and underneath that eye is all of that resinous adhesive. And if we keep panning through the images, you have these hieroglyphic languages. I mean, unbelievable amounts of linguistic and pictographic symbols on all of the artifacts. And one thing I will mention is that when I was doing this research in 2019, this comes from an area called Ojuelos, or it's in the state of Jalisco. In recent years, there have been other sites like Tula Hidalgo is a huge collection of other ET influenced pieces. This image that we're sharing is a functional pipe. It's a very small artifact, but that small pipe does feed up into the feather above the UFO and does function. You may notice the earrings that are looped together. There's a lot of complexity. The eyes are inlaid pieces. I mean, we're talking about composite, pieces that are really incredible and are not easily achieved by carving stones or rocks. The glyphs are very fine. The polish is incredibly smooth. So it really boggles the mind when you do the deep dive. Here's a ring. We're just panning through this original sample group. You can see the UFO and the planets on that ring. This is that dagger. This is an outstanding piece. This is a piece that really opened the door for me. This is in my collection, and I've studied this thing up, down, left, and right. this this artifact opened the doors of perception for me to realize the research I've now concluded all these years later. That being that it's an engineered material composition. It's not a rock. It's not a stone. It's more like a geopolymer. But to that point, and to maybe throw it over to YssaH, in the research that I've done, the material composition, like I'm saying, is an engineered one. In that sense, they're programmable. And in my research, some of the crystalline structures that I've identified are the same type of crystals we use in digital memory or memory storage for our computers, meaning like CD-ROMs and disk drives. So these artifacts certainly possess information at some level. And I think I've shared maybe 40 or 50 photos, so there's plenty to pan through. But one thing I'll briefly mention and pass it to YssaH is a mutual friend, a man named Oleg Elistratov. He's a Russian researcher. He's recently, this year, done a lot of research with these artifacts around random number generators and found a statistically significant variance when these artifacts are they're around these random number generators, meaning it's affecting the field in that way as well.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I mean, before YssaH gets going there, these geopolymers, as we spoke about a little bit yesterday, Trevor, these are also, a lot of ships are made of these geopolymers, and they're actually the energy, they actually hold energy, and through a toroidal field, they bring energy into them. So they are energy, and they are the crystalline matrix of a hard drive that's made out of how we are made and how computer chips are made. And I mean, that's evident with the silica that's in there in the quartz crystal. And we were talking about, I was debunking a bunch of stuff from Morocco and from Europe, with these giant statues that were hand carved supposedly. And really, these were geopolymers that were melted down quartz crystal or alabaster mixed together. But the fantastic thing about that is they were mimicking things that were being done 8,000 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
2,000 years ago. So this is what's so fantastic about these specimens we're just now beginning to kind of understand a little bit about this. And that's why YssaH has a very important position here as this architect to break that code down and figure out, a little bit more about this through her artwork of renderings and also her connection with the energies coming out of these. Go ahead, YssaH.
Well, so much to say, the topic's covered in just a few minutes, a whole multiverse going on there. But anyway, so when we were talking about the luminescence, about the photoluminescence that these artifacts have, I have also talked to one of the head chief in the research, in the metallurgic research on the Bugosphere. He's a specialist in chemistry, and he also has a lot of artifacts. And he has run some tests on them, and they are pointing out that photoluminescence can also be related to nanotechnology, which
exactly
involves the psyllium sulfide doped in terbium. So when we're talking about how someone who doesn't have the tools, who doesn't have the studies or the means, how can they achieve this kind of technology? Right?
Of course. YssaH is sharing for the audience where these artifacts come from is a extremely remote and generally impoverished area of people.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
talking about nanotechnology, manufactured, incredible pieces. It's beyond speculation. Something is happening here that is unraveling in front of our eyes.
Yes, and you were also talking about low levels of radioactivity. I was talking about this a few days ago, because there are even some crystals here, only found in Mexico, that have a slight emission of radioactivity, not enough to actually harm the biology
Right.
of the one who's holding it, but definitely present.
It's measurable. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So now you were also talking about the way that the transmission of consciousness happens, like from creator to the piece, or even from the artifact all the way to the space memory network. So one of the ways, based on the research that a friend of mine, Mike Forrest, has also done, is that some of them, mainly the pieces in Tula, because the pieces in Tula are way different than the ones in Ojuelos, in Jalisco, or the ones in Michoacan, or the ones in Guerrero. Like each one has its own artistic signature that you can immediately tell, where it's coming from. So, for instance, the ones in Tula, they have traces of ferrite oxide, which, in other words, it is blood. So now what I was tuning into, because we know that there is this huge spectrum regarding to blood, So when we touch upon, blood and ancient civilizations, like immediately it equals sacrifice. So, but there are many things, parts of the story that haven't been spoken, as in everything. And one of those things is that when we're talking about transferring our genetics somewhere, somehow it could have been also through blood, not with the purpose of doing some woo thing there, but actually to
It's an activation, absolutely.
being capable to connect with a piece. And if we are saying, I mentioned this to you last time, Emery,
Yeah.
if the consciousness of a spaceship, when you enter, you're unifying your consciousness with it due to the level of technology that it has, and even for the pilot to tune its own consciousness to the very same spaceship, genetically wise, then what would be the difference if they do that with more, let's say, in more rudimentary forms, because actually blood is not rudimentary at all, but the way that we have preserved it has so many layers of like polluted layers, region and so forth, but it could have been just mainly a scientific test. And another thing is that, for instance, when we're talking about how these artifacts are the symbols, for instance. Yeah, the crosses. Yeah, that's a very good pick, because you are picturing, the essence precisely, Cameron. Thank you for that.
I just want to jump in quickly. This is actually a video I've shared. It's from Oleg and his team of Russians. This is an original production from 2018 of their expedition into the mountains of Ojuelos. Just to give the audience some...
Yeah, it's a good perspective. It just takes a second. Yeah, let's take a look at it real quick, and then YssaH can continue.
And these artifacts that they discovered on this expedition were brought back to Taurus Tech, where we did thermoluminescence dating and carbon dating on them. Later in, this is September.
Fun.
This is September 2018. In April of 2019, I went down with my colleague Scott Brown, and we did our own expedition with Mark Russell. And there are a couple names that are going to be floating around a lot, like Josh Sizzler, who's been a great contributor. Mike Forrest has really taken in terms of the Tula collection and everything. He's really contributed a lot. Mike has supported my research. But yeah, these areas are extremely remote, and there are cave systems in the mountains. This particular dig site is in the highlands, and some of the locations of the sites are marked. They're marked with stone arrangements. They're marked by cactuses. So again, if the audience is not familiar, there are websites and YouTubes to sink your teeth into this. I mean, there are massive collections. And again, what really sets this apart is that it's escaped the hands of the government and the institutions that normally destroy, burn, bury. This is all independently done. These are ceramic pieces that are in the shape of UFOs. Yeah, I mean, this video does pan into other private collections in Mexico that can sort of give the audience some reference that, for example, this is one of the private collectors' homes. This is where many of the pieces from Nassim, all of his collection comes from this. All of my collection comes from this. Many other collectors have acquired through this private collector. And it also is worth mentioning that these pieces have been uncovered since the late 60s or late 50s. This is pre-internet, pre-everything. Many of these collections actually are untouched. Klaus Dona is a friend who really kind of opened this whole world up. Klaus is a museum curator and has curated mysterious artifacts in Vienna, Austria. But Klaus and I are in contact frequently, and there are entire collections off the radar because, as Emery has mentioned, and there's a lot of, Mexico has a lot of political issues, has a lot of security issues. So people do fear for their lives. And being in these places is not a Disneyland experience. It is, you're out in the Wild West.
Tell me about it. Yeah. Now that you mentioned that, a lot of people is coming from the idea or the theory, which is likely, that there is some cartel that is replicating these pieces. I haven't seen, but I'm quite sure that there is that possibility.
Of course.
But when you're taking into consideration all the technology that some of these artifacts need, I'm quite sure that they don't even have the even if they have the budget, they won't use it for that, because it's just about fooling people, and the people that truly knows won't,
that's where the audience
know how to distinguish.
Yeah. What we can share with the audience is truly expertise, because even the idea of a forgery or a fabrication presupposes something that's original. So
exactly.
Not only that, but as YssaH had mentioned, and what my research has really proven, this material composition is far too advanced. This is not fired clay. It's not carved rocks. And again, for many people who may have seen videos or clips on the internet, it's hard to judge from that level, because you have to experience them, you have to see them.
Absolutely.
And from your couch at home or your desk, you can say, I don't know, they look whatever. But what we have to share is something that is so intimate, is so close to the root of this stuff, that I'm just grateful for Emery and happy to share this stuff. It's really, it's time, and I'm working on a very thorough report to publish to sort of set the bar, prove me right or prove me wrong, scientifically speaking, because this, a lot like the Nazca mummy situation, it's a gross oversimplification to say they're dolls. And now, years later, we know that's baloney. They're not dolls. They're biological organisms. You could apply the same logic here that people say, oh, well, they're handicraft or they're tourist attractions. I'm grateful to be able to share this information to make people realize, holy shit, that's not the case. At least in the majority. Of course, there are people who will latch on to this project and make forgeries and make fakes, but the material science has shown, for example, this artifact that's on display is the 5th sample in that original sample group. We call this the Navigator tablet. Look at all of those symbols.
I can definitely talk about that.
Yeah, YssaH, what do you think about this?
Well, that type of writing, those type of symbols are very consistent to the ones found in Ojuelos. You can see that they are, the way that they make groups goes to the type of geometries that they have. Now, it's very I have also other pictures that I want to share, because there are some tablets that they are framing each one of those codes, each one of those symbols
separate
into a very consistent algorithm, meaning by this, they won't deviate very much from the type of geometries that they are using. It can even seem that they are the very same symbols, just with slight variants. So that has a very specific purpose, and that has a purpose of huge anchorage in the field based on the transmission of the information that the artifact has. For instance, in this one, all of this is in motion. Like all of those, each one of those codes are hugely spinning, because how I see, each one of them creates a sphere. So each one of them can be contemplated in 720 degrees. If we project, like if we
Cameron, can you blow that up again for us so we can see it in detail as she's explaining? There we go. Thank you.
Yeah. So if you see each one of the symbols, imagine them going into a sphere, which is 720 degrees. Now, each one of those codes will have, you see, it has triangles, it has like hemicircles, then it has lines. So all of those variants are creating a very specific influence and interaction with that spherical unit that they are creating. Call it voxels, like call it PSU, like as spherical units as ourselves when we are scanning them through the holographic field. So, because again, it's like, imagine a human body. If I tell you this about you, like take your eye and project it holographically into a sphere, and now start taking the constants of your pupil and your iris and how they are interacting with one another and creating a black hole, so forth, then it will be the same kind of interaction as if you see one of these tablets, or for instance, this device. Because I, even more than just an artifact, I see it as a device. So there are many ways to translate this into sound. For instance, I don't know if you guys have heard about the Thermoluminescence, which is a machine that you can make. It has two antennas, and then in between the two antennas, you start moving your hand, and it will emit a frequency. It's kind of, let's say, a frequency generator, but let's say more a housemate. So when you start drawing all those symbols, it will start emitting frequencies. Why? Because the interaction in between all those geometries at a holographic field creates a very specific intonation. So then if you want to activate or go to a very specific quadrant of this star, because as you see, it has 4 edges and it's a star. If you want to go, yes.
I have to jump in, but on that note, this artifact and those 4 quadrants you've identified, Cameron, if you can please zoom in, you'll notice on the 4 quadrants, the 4 star points, those are dials. All right, hold on.
At the edge, in the edge.
Yeah. So this image, those dials, by the way, were set on a central. You'll want to zoom out, Cameron.
Yeah, zoom out, Cameron. We'll show you.
Okay. Beyond that, a little bit more, please. Okay, the triangular corners. Do you see outside of the circle?
Yes.
Okay, those. If you go to each one of those triangles, there's a different being. There's a different head shape. There's a different face. Okay, that one, the next one, the next one. The topic of the hybridization of our species, or the genesis or creation of our species, is all over these tablets. I gotta get this out because this is my photo and my work. Is the cylindrical post is cemented with the resin. Okay, the resin is what we carbon dated to 8,500 years BP. Now this artifact broke when it was being uncovered, so that cylindrical post snapped. Okay, we call it the Navigator disc because it has those dials have glyphs underneath, on top, and they coordinate. Okay, they coordinate between that disc. As I did mention, it broke. The artifact broke. When you lift the disc up, there's engravings on the underside that are not visible. It's again the levels of artistry, or the levels of creativity here are beyond logic, because there's no reason to put glyphs on a surface that you would not see. But as YssaH was saying, these glyphs are energetic codes. And Cameron, if you can go to the next image, that's Oleg. That's our friend. That's him doing the sampling of this piece in Mexico. And the next image, this is the back side of that tablet. They leave nothing untouched. They have so much to say. So you can zoom and pan in here. We've got Anubis, we've got hybrid figures, and my research has shown this year that these carvings are, on average, 30 microns deep.
And how old is this specimen according to your records, and why is Anubis in there?
So to zoom out a bit more for the audience and for everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
These objects, these artifacts, are prehistorical, and in my estimation, they come from a mother culture, Atlantis or Aztlan. They come from the mother culture of the Egyptians, of the Mayans, of the pyramid builders that we see around the world that survived the cataclysm. These are the history, these are the stories of our civilization before the flood, before recorded history. So, by all standards, it's off the Richter scale. All the hieroglyphs, the UFOs, the genetic exchange. Again, these carvings are 30 microns deep across curved surfaces in hard material. So,
what do you think, Trevor, made those carvings? Like, what tool do you believe in your research? We've talked about this a lot. I'm just trying to, get that question out there for the audience, because millions of people are going to watch this, after we publicize it. And what do you believe? Because I know the technology you are using to look at that, and it's just phenomenal to know, 30 microns it's very small.
It's incredible. Not only that, but there's no chipping. There's no
right. There's nothing. It's a clean cut.
It's super clean, and we'll, as we pan through the images, I think I shared 40 images, so there's a lot to dive into, but using some of the most advanced microscopy, you can see that the material was soft.
Yeah.
The material was soft when it was carved. That's towards the end of. If you can go back once more, Cameron. This is when we met Oleg just before his expedition. That is that dagger that we've talked about. That's Scott Brown that's Scott Brown there. He was our chief technology officer. He's been very involved in the research, and Oleg has been a great contributor as well. But these are genuinely my colleagues, and we've compared notes and agreed on some things and disagreed on others. But
I'm sorry. I was going to say something. Go ahead.
Yeah, please do.
Well, I just wanted to finish about what I was reading on the grading. Can you put it, Cameron, please? Because it's very consistent to what you were saying, Trevor. It's the other one, the one that has
next one, Cameron.
Because for me, and what I want to put out, like with a very, very straight intention and message, is that these artifacts are not only to be placed in collections. These artifacts, some of them are to be activated and used.
Yeah.
So knowing how they work can actually create huge advancements in technology. Not only knowing how to use them, yet knowing how to decode them. And for me, one of the most important things that I want to transmit is that, as I was saying, we can go through layers, like, okay, yes, let's read it as how you would read a physical body. Okay, you have two eyes, you're a human. Okay, you have two eyes, you have two ears, you have genitals, you have, and so forth. Okay, you're a human. Okay, you're an artifact. And perhaps, you were pointing out to the sun and to the moon, but going, and this is, I know that sometimes it can be kind of complex because I have faced this my whole life, seeing reality through the hologram, through the holographic field. And sometimes it's hard for people to see it. They haven't, but we live in a holographic universe. If we look at quantum physics in the holographic field, we will know that these things are not just about matter. It's not just something tangible. We are now upgrading as multidimensional beings into our capability to feel the energy, and the energy has has another form in another, let's call it dimension, density, energy density, however you want to call it. So when you're capable to tune into that holographic projection, which very much involves plasma technology, then you will see that each one of these symbols is actually moving. It's alive. It's like the very same hieroglyphics. You go to a temple and they're not static. They are united and aligned into the whole technology of the very same temple, with a very specific purpose, creating networks to some arcs at some moment, perhaps not anymore. But this is one of the hugest clues, from my perception, of what unity consciousness is. It's not just about seeing a pyramid in front of you. It's about being the pyramid through your pyramidal neurons, being the pyramid through the molecular composition of your water, and the DNA in your telomeres, that is a tetrahedral structure, and I could go on and on. So if you see the elongated skull being there, it is actually pointing out to a very specific quadrant. That is fixated, that is glued, that is static. So besides all the points that you can go through when you actually move that compass, it also it's pointing out to that very specific quadrant. Perhaps this is just one of other 4 artifacts that belong to this family. Each one of these beings representing each one of those 4 gods, one of them. The other 3 should be in other tablets as this one, heading to different points that are encrypted in those very specific symbols, you know. So, and again, how I said, I don't know if you experience that, Trevor, or you, Emery, but when I see them, when I scan them,
No,
depending on
absolutely.
what they want to activate, they will start showing very
Right.
specific algorithms based on the different frequency that each one of those symbols is emitting. Therefore, it will seem, or it could translate as different gradients of light coming to you.
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up. And, we talked about this, you and I, many times. We're looking at a 2D specimen here, and you can put that specimen back up there, Cameron. So that, this specimen here, you're looking at this for the layman's person. Oh, cool. There is a slab of rock. It's got these carvings on it. What YssaH is explaining is that this is more than just a 2D object. This is a 3-dimensional holographic image that you can expand in your thought, in your brain, in your thought process, to look at this. And a lot of people have this ability, like YssaH does, and you can then make that into the sphere it really is, or the double Merkaba, or whatever. And this is also trans-dimensional, interdimensional. So this looks different in the 4D, 5D, 6D, 7D, or if it was to drop down, back into a 1D. So there's many translations because of what we're perceiving this with our current abilities as, wow, this is this. But there's a lot more to this, because if you expand it into those holographic images that you can construct. I know YssaH was looking for a program for that a while ago. I don't know if she's ever found it. And we're trying to find a way to like expand that and let the AI build this. It's kind of like that movie Contact. We have a piece of paper here with all these constructs on it, and we're trying to build, architectural design from something. And this what Trevor was talking about. This is the architectural design for a being of sorts, a human being, or other beings. And predates, he was talking about Atlantis there, and the story of all this unfolds. I think it's important to understand that when in alignment with all these different shapes and geometric shapes, that, as YssaH has pointed out, this creates light. Okay, it doesn't mean you're going to be able to see that light. There's lots of light wavelengths we can't see, and that's what we specialize in our solutions here. But we have to understand that light is also a harmonic frequency, which activates certain portals, certain other tablets, certain other areas, sacred areas around the planet. So, and most importantly, it activates your crystalline structure for healing.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that, Emery. I do believe that you were asking actually one thing I didn't get to answer the main question, which was, where are we standing at right now? With all of this disclosure, and what leads me precisely to what you just were mentioning, that right now, how I see it is that all of these artifacts, all of these technologies, the Bugosphere, UFOs, ARCs, all of this that is now being progressively disclosed is showing to us that everything is reverse engineered from what?
Yeah.
From our own biology. And we can go, from mesoscale all the way to quantum scale and so forth. But then again, okay, if that technology is reverse engineered, let's say, from my biology or the way that human was created, and therefore the biology of the galactic beings that created humanity and so forth, then now what? Well, as a collective, we have a lot to work on our capabilities to perceive through the holographic field, because it's no one's fault. The thing is that coming from a unity consciousness, and what we are facing right now, how I see it, is that we were educated, or let's say through the amnesia, a big and fundamental part of the equation was left behind, which is the singularity. You know, if we don't take into consideration the singularity within the polarization, no wonder we're just going back and forward from choose a side. Which side are you on? And to be honest, we are the axis. We are capable to be the axis and bring all those energies here right now. So now, how can the holographic reality be connected with this singularity? And saying it in other words, and actually I was talking to Nassim about this, is we talk about 0-point field, right? And 0-point energy and the critical importance of this. Now, what would it represent in our reality, that 0-point field? And it's our sovereignty. Stop coming back and forward from poles and being attached or depending from any of one of the forces, because Trevor will say, and also you, Emery, it's absurd. It's baloney. If someone through a religion tells you, and I have nothing against religions, I'm just pointing out the institution itself. If someone tells you, hey, you can just choose potential energy, you can just choose this belief, your universe would collapse. What about the kinetic energy? What about the phi, the golden ratio? What about, that comes through very specific interactions?
Don't worry about that. That's over there. Just stay here, focused here. This is what it's all about. So I'll back you up and I'll be the bad cop on religion and spirituality if you want. And it's something, being spiritual myself and being a scientist, is always that conundrum of exactly what you're saying. We're trying that potential energy. What's going on with the kinetic energy here? It's just sitting there. Not being utilized. There's more to that story, and we can't stop at one test or one deciphering. We have to do it, as you said, singularity and having the wholeness of the whole community. It's where this is so important. That's why this video webinar right now it's going to change so many lives around the planet by being able to be activated by what we're trying to teach right now, which is this. Go ahead.
Yeah, imagine I talk about the plasma body, and we know that we are creating cosmic amounts of energy in our body at every nanosecond, through our mitochondria, microtubules, and so forth. I'm showing the codes in this one because I love them, because they're very galactic and very unique ones. This is from Tula. So now that you have all that energy, and then you have this glows in the dark, big time. So if we say that these are reverse engineered from our biology, are you, YssaH, saying that we can glow with UV light? And then I'll say, okay, let's go back into the ancient civilizations. Let's take into consideration the monks, the Tibetan monks, when they talk about the rainbow body. Let's talk about the fourth state of water, and the liquid crystalline, and the capability of how our biology can create this magnificent network of coherence and connection to the space memory network, and amplifying our plasma. What's plasma? Could we at some point have been or be bioluminescent?
Yes.
Is that also what this is pointing out to? That when we're talking about that our blood, the less, let's say, the more ionization and the more, you know, the pH, the higher that it goes, then our blood actually it starts also to be more crystalline, starts to be clearer, and so forth. I won't go like really deep into that part, but what I want to say is that I don't have here pictures, but when I was living in Egypt, I had people that took pictures of me, and my body truly almost disappears. You know, I'm kind of blending with everything. And in some of them, not only the pyramids, but me as well, I look like made of light. What happened? Was that an effect of the camera? Probably, but not really due to the space where.
Your vibration at that moment was, you know, not in the 3D, and the 3D camera is picking up a little bit more different wavelengths. So you're fluxing in and out, kind of like 3i Atlas and all these other, you know, you see the spaceship and you don't see it. We notice that these are in constant flux in the different dimensions. Now, if we were to go from this dimension to a 4, 5, 6, we become the light being. And many light beings and extraterrestrials we have worked on in the project, when they weren't in 3-dimensional, they were light. And, you know, I'm really famous for taking that picture on Boca Grande Island of the light being, you know, witnessed by Greer and, you know, 50 other people. I don't know if Cameron wants to show that light being original photograph. You know, we do have posters of it laying around that you can buy on website. But these light beings, when they come, they're you know, they can take any form they want, but it's the light being that is in all of us. We are all capable of going into that light phase. And many of you are upgrading to that, and many of you have already upgraded to it, and you're just not sure how to, you know, get through it. Cameron, there's the artist rendition of that. Do you have your picture of the original hanging around? So this is an artist rendition of the original, but I didn't know if you had the original, Cameron, laying next to your desk there. But so this was during a you know, a contact event, and there was a craft that came out of the ocean, and there were scintillating lights everywhere, and this being formed right in front of me, about 3 feet in front of me, and I was through telepathy, I said, you know, may I take your picture? And it was laughing, saying, of course, that's why you're here. Amongst the transfer of 300 other questions answered within a millisecond. So it was a great experience. And this picture did leak out, the original, to the Navy. And they said it was the most amazing picture of an extraterrestrial ever taken by a civilian, not knowing I was the one who took the picture. So it's kind of funny how, you know, these things get out, but these are light activation codes. So we would look like that. There's a more story behind that, which I'll get into another time. But yeah, the light being is in the essence of every, you know, DNA crystalline structure you have in your body, and it's everywhere all the time. And if you were to dematerialize now and go into these other dimensions, you would look like that. You would have this light essence about you, and your light essence also leaves a trail. And we're proving this now in science. I haven't talked to you about this, Trevor, yet, but we have night visions now and things that we can, very high tech, that we can see when you last sat in the chair right here, just your light frequency. So I can see someone sneaking up, you know, around the house, or how long they've been crouched behind the tree because of these new frequency measuring devices. And this is great because it gives more substance to what we're teaching here about conscious light and the photons that are coming off your body. And that's why, you know, we do these amazing scans. I'll just plug that real quick, where we take your DNA, like a fingernail clipping or your picture, your face, and we run it into our system, and we pick up on the photons. So we have 3 million different frequencies of light that are measured that have to do with seeing what's wrong in your body, what type of disease or cancer or virus or bacteria. And we can diagnostically look at that. So that's something that I think is great, because all these artifacts have to do with upregulating the structure of the human being, and also giving us a little bit of the history of like what the heck is going on, as Trevor has deciphered that.
Yes, absolutely. You know, it's like when the New Age, or even religion hijacked the word enlightenment, and then, you know, it was like, yeah, what if, you know, it's literal, enlightening your body, you know? So again, uh, quantum physics can explain it, you know,
Yeah.
it's, but anyway, so for me, that's one of the things that we are now being invited to 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 embody in the next stages of human evolution. We know that very interesting timing is coming, so we definitely need to step up, and part of it is not underestimating our biology, not underestimating our potential, not underestimating our brain. You know, we all have the capability to go a higher octave when it comes to our biology and the use and application of it. We just need to communicate with it, you know. Um, this is a very interesting one because has the Nefertiti
The
headdress.
Nefertiti headdress, yes.
And this is one, this hasn't been the only one found with the Nefertiti headdress, but it's the only one that I have with me and that I have been able to share images of. Because some other photos were shown to me, but from a collection in Michoacan that they were not allowing to show them. It wasn't time, let's say, but now it is time. And it is very interesting because this also glows in the dark, has photoluminescent properties. And the thing is that here we see that this headdress, we will see it also. Thanks, Cameron. There you go, Nefertiti. So we have a figure of one of the most important ones in Egypt, and that her life was never traced back to Mexico at all. You know, perhaps there are some theories that her daughters went to Scotland, and that's where Scotia comes from, and Nefertiti was the wife of Akhenaten. But we have found a lot of relics with the headdress of Nefertiti, and also with
And
uh,
the serpent on top.
yeah.
Those damn reptilians are everywhere. I'm telling you, those draconians are controlling everyone, even back then. That's why they saluted. This is just me going on an outburst. This is why the draconians are worshipped back then.
You don't need to say it. It's okay.
Well, it's funny. They went from worshiping the snakes to the cats, which is really funny for me. That's a whole nother story I'll get into.
Yeah, you know, we found a huge skull, a big, like one of my biggest friends here in Mexico, David Avila, who is it's leading the research in metallurgy regarding to metallurgy in the Bugosphere. He's writing a book, an amazing one. He's finished, and he talks about my.
Confirmation.
He
That's
has the
confirmation complete. Hold on. You gotta shut the door. The dragons are getting crazy. They're disagreeing with you. They're agreeing with you.
no, good, because yeah. Anyway,
No,
perfect.
keep going, because I still have to add to this with the cat and the dragon.
Yeah.
I mean, the cat and the drake. Go ahead.
Well, not the recent finding, but one of the latest findings that I have been involved with has like a cube inside. Oh, I cannot share the images because they're following a very specific protocol that will involve a press conference and the book of this friend, David Avila, at some point. But what I can say is that there, for instance, before that, there were other findings that involve a cube inside of an obelisk, And so that's pointing out to something. Perhaps if we crack up the obelisks, we will be finding cubic generators. So it has a cube, it has the obelisk, and then it had this huge elongated skull. I'm talking about more than 60 centimeters long. Talking about, let's say, 60, let's say 95 centimeters. I don't know how much it would be in inches, but very big. The biggest elongated skull that I have seen so far. So in part of it, it has engraved the same obelisk with the cube. And then it has on one side this eye-headed being. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it's very common to see it in the Tula artifacts. It's an eye with a body. And on one side, it is showing the reptilians. This is why I brought it up. The reptilians that hijacked that technology. And on the other side, it's welcoming other beings coming in a solar arc. Bird beings, cephalopods, elongated skulls, and Anubis beings. Because again,
Yeah.
Anubis is everywhere, everywhere. One of the
Yes.
most important beings.
Yes, of course. So I'll elaborate on that a little bit because I'm really into, of course, studying Egyptology my whole life at a very young age. And of course, the draconian involvement, reptilian involvement, and how they were, setting the stage for the banking system and the gold and how to control humans. And that's why all these Egyptian pharaohs and Nefertiti all had that cobra. They were saying that the draconians, the reptilian race, was higher than them. They were the gods, and that's what they believed in. However, that got really scary because the reptilians were losing control because people were getting scared of serpents, and it wasn't a good look for them. So they switched it over to the cat. Now, the cat is really phenomenal. That replaced that draconian, the reptilian kind of that you see in all the pictures, you see in all the sculptures. Now they started worshiping cats afterwards. And cats are fascinating because cats, which I've worked with, as you guys know, at the Octagon Wildlife Sanctuary my whole life, volunteering as a wound care specialist for all these animals and working with cats hand in hand, wild cats and domesticated cats, all from around the world. And one of the interesting things was, after studying DNA of domesticated cats, there's no really lineage. Like, we know that our dogs come from wolves. We can kind of track that a little bit. We can't even track us coming from apes. It's just there's a big gap. And the same thing with cats. They're just a domesticated cat just plopped in on Earth one day, the same time we plopped in. So there's not like this perfect DNA, catch of where it actually came from, like the saber-toothed tiger. That's all false. So what has happened is, when we're looking at their DNA of the domesticated cat only, there's like this high concentration of reptilian DNA in it. And if you look at cats' eyes, they got reptilian eyes. And my wife's going to kill me for this, but I don't care. I'll tell you, these cats are reptilian. That's why you see reptilian sculptures of cats with scales on them.
Ooh, you want to know that one? When
So it's go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Have you ever been to the chapel of Sekhmet in Egypt?
No.
The one that is famous for this
Yes.
black granite statue.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
When you see it from distance, you will also see a crocodile. It is a crocodile, and it is the lioness.
I'm just saying, it's you guys go do your own research, but when I saw this, so every time our cat looks at us, I'm kind of like freaked out a little bit now. Now, I love cats. It's just interesting that genetically there's some gap, and there's also genetically they have a lot of more reptilian DNA in them, and they have slit eyes like the reptiles do. And Lions don't, cheetahs don't, tigers don't. They've got regular pupils just like us. Watch your cats, guys.
I was asking myself that the other day. I was asking my cat.
And they are super sensitive. They have hyperdimensional awareness. You know, they have psionics. You know, if you ever hear a cat meowing, they're mind controlling you, because they don't do that for any other reason but to gain control of the. And we've recorded cat meowing to an infant crying, and it's the same frequency. Let's get on frequency about these damn cats. And it's funny because if our cat starts crying, Darling jumps out, like, "Oh my gosh, the cats are meowing." And I'm like, no, they programmed us to jump up and go see what's going on because it's the same frequency. Just ignore them. They're fine. Cats will survive anything.
And what about the purring? When they
purring,
yeah.
Well, that's another healing frequency, though. You know, it's a good thing. I love cats. They're very cool, and they're definitely connected. And, and I utilize them in many projects throughout my life. I'm just throwing it out there as a fun thing, but it's kind of compelling. So someone will probably spend millions of dollars 10 years from now to figure this out. But I just want to put it out there.
Thank you, Emery. I want to ask Trevor if he has ever, or you, Emery, if you have ever seen this kind of codes.
You know,
because even in the center, you see, like even in the center, it has another code, and here there is another one.
Of course, I've seen codes like this on other artifacts found at crash sites in the early 90s, but I don't have pictures of them, but I do remember the circuitry. But the circuitry for me also looks like circuitry that, we have used on a macroscopic level. How about you, Trevor? What's your experiences with this? Because this is the thing now everywhere of these designs and these circuits.
The timing is really interesting with the crash or retrieval of the Bugosphere, because the Bugosphere has this chip circuitry design. It's also an interesting coincidence with the propagation of artificial intelligence, or what we call artificial intelligence. We're really at the threshold of reality, of consciousness itself. But specifically what YssaH's sharing, the artifact that she demonstrated, those lines, those angles are very specific and very, nearly identical to what's on the Bugosphere. I do know that there is a private collector who has actually pursued this circuitry in terms of AI and algorithms, applying this geometric form to AI systems and electronic circuitry. A lot of that research is not disclosed, but they found some really interesting developments when including these symbols into AI systems. And this photo that's up now is a blast from the past. This is also 2018. Our audience may be able to identify that's Daryl Anka in the middle, or Bashar channeling, holding that same dagger, that same artifact. And that's Scott Brown to our right, who's also been very involved. We've actually done 2 private sessions with Bashar. If you're not familiar, Bashar is a channel of ET intelligence.
Everybody knows Daryl.
Of course, Daryl's great. And, to be completely honest with you, our private session we did in 2020, it's taken me 5 years to figure out what he told us.
Wow.
And what he told us is exactly correct. He told us about the material composition. He told us about the Atlantean roots. He told us that the artifacts are older than 8,000 years old.
Yeah.
At the time, I was thinking, what? older than that. So,
Yeah.
you know, I just want to share that this has been a fun journey, right? I mean, if Cameron, if you keep going to the next photos, you know, we're conducting science and we're really on the edge of reality, but we're having fun. If you're familiar with Bashar's formula, it's about following your passion and your excitement leads the way. So that has brought us together. And, you know, Bashar also talked to us about specific free energy or over unity technologies. I'm talking about schematics. So he delivered some interesting information. This is,
of course, that's my favorite one of.
I know him. Who is he?
Of Trevor with the photo bombing. Look at,
Yeah.
I love Trevor. He makes every picture worth. Like, I don't remember any of those pictures except these pictures because
I like very much that Trinity.
The Steve Trevor and Emery Smith. Oh my God!
Keep going, Cameron. There's some more pictures to share. These photos.
Let's show them some pictures. Yeah.
These photos have never been released because they're my photos. They are not publicized or published. But this is genuinely how Emery and I met in a laboratory setting, talking about not only these artifacts but biological specimens, crash retrievals, material science. So we're having some fun with it. You know, in the other room of this laboratory, we have free energy devices operating. This is a different.
Oh, right. This is the Ankh.
Yeah, this is a different time.
Yeah.
But this is a private gathering we had with, thanks to Joshua Sizzler.
Right.
Who I can't thank enough, and Mark Russell, who's one of the biggest curators. So, you know, this was at an event in California. This was a private gathering where Nassim is holding a digital microscope, you know, a handheld little piece of equipment that can achieve a magnification of about 250x. So you can really see beyond what our eyes can see. And, you know, we're kind of just, again, having fun and exploring possibilities. And this is 2019, by the way. So a lot has changed, even in terms of technology and microscopes. So, you know, Emery has had, he knows the frequency, he knows the vibration, he's seen and held the pieces. And yes, he is holding an Egyptian Ankh in this photo. If you pan to the next photo, there's more detail on that piece.
Very
so
cool.
That's Joshua Sizzler there. And Josh, you can check him out on YouTube, and he's releasing a book shortly. Josh is, I mean, he's put more skin in the game than almost anybody.
In Switzerland.
And he's got a ridiculous collection. I'll leave it at that. But if you pan to the next photo, you can zoom in and out on this object, but this is the Ankh that Emery was holding. You can see that they truly leave almost no surface untouched. And again, these inscriptions are extremely fine. And if you pan down on this image, you can see there is a jackal or a dog figure. It's not quite Anubis.
It's not Anubis. No,
it's not quite Anubis, but you do have really a pantheon of archetypal, I guess what we would call gods or angels, but they're present in these artifacts. I think one thing worth mentioning is at this time, when Emery and I were doing our stuff and with Nassim, there was no such thing as a Tula artifact. They weren't uncovered yet. So I think in late 2020 or early 2021, some of the first pieces of this other neighboring collection have been unearthed. And at the time I'm going, all right, this is interesting. Now we're here in 2025. This Tula collection is off the charts. It's insane. We're going to get into I've done some lab research on these pieces.
Yeah, tell me more. Tell me, Trevor. However, I can help you with that. Just let me know.
Yeah, just one note before you start, Trevor, for the scientific understanding of when Trevor earlier was measuring these at 30 microns, some of these cuts, to put that into perspective for the audience, you're like a red blood cell is like 7 microns thick.
Exactly.
I mean, wide, not thick. They're only 2 microns wide, but I mean thick. So we're talking about a few red blood cells that these cuts, okay, 30 microns is very small. A red blood cell is 7 to 8 microns. So do the math. It's very interesting, these findings that he's got. All right, go ahead. Take it over, Trevor.
Well, I'll just quickly mention that the UV effect, the phosphorescent effect.
Oh my gosh.
I'm just going to quickly mention that I was the first person to discover this. And the only reason I discovered it is because Bashar guided us there. Okay.
Yeah.
This was I showed Josh, I showed Mike, I showed Oleg. So now everyone's got the UV light, which is incredibly interesting. But Bashar is who led us in that way. More specifically, when we were doing private channeling sessions with Bashar and asking about all the super nitty-gritty science, at the time in 2019, we were at a roadblock. We couldn't really figure out what some of our challenges were. And Bashar said, you know what? Have any of you looked at this stuff under a UV light? And at the time, nobody had. And later, in Nassim's lab, I did. However, at the time, the UV light I used was a 400 nanometer wavelength. It wasn't, I got no reaction in the artifact. So I thought, I don't know, maybe Bashar's, I don't know. It took in mid 2021, I realized that the wavelength is also a specific aspect.
Yeah.
So that was the time where I realized, because in mineralogy and gemologists, they use different frequencies for fluorescence or phosphorescence. Anyways, when I got the wavelength right, boom, it was there. And I was just like, Bashar, you were right. You were leading us on this path. So that was the research is, if you'd like to, it's been guided by extraterrestrials to some degree. These photos that Cameron is sharing are in early 2019 in Ojuelos. To paint the picture, you are out there. You are in very desolate and what some people consider to be virgin territory, places that have not been traversed by people in a long time. Cameron's flipping through these photos. These are some of the cave systems that the artifacts are recovered from.
Yes.
And if you can pan forward, Cameron, one thing that's worth mentioning is that the National Institute of Anthropology and History of Mexico has an official statement on the artifacts.
Yes.
Okay? The official statement is a 1-page report saying that all of the artifacts are modern forgeries.
Yes, exactly.
Again, a gross oversimplification, because where's your data? Where's your microscopy? Where's your archaeological? There's no reference. But we can understand that governments and institutions are not exactly, appropriate for this, fit for the job, we'll say. They have a different job, and that's kind of keeping the status quo.
Well, the thing is that we have been finding, not with my own hands, but I have seen collections of friends that have artifacts with engravings of what we would call as virgins, but with ET faces. So there are many things in jeopardy here. It's not only the fact that they would have to rewrite all the story, yet even, when the Spanish came, and you read in the texts that they thought that they were God because, you know, they were white and their hair color and so forth, they skipped the part that they thought in the beginning they were Sumerians, you know, because even there are images of, well, there is now a celebration. The name is well, there is a celebration once a year here in Mexico that they have these big figures with the beard like that, like super Sumerian, the headdress as the one that I showed of Nefertiti, chinelos. And they say, oh, they were emphasizing this, the conquistadors here. No, you know, we have the artifacts. They were, when they saw the Sumerians, they were like, oh, they came back, you know, because they were already present here. But the like religion erased all of that. And now imagine you get a tablet with a La Virgen de Guadalupe with an ET face, and you show it to the people, you know, they will just collapse, you know. So that's a huge step that again I see as imminent, because there is so much going on here in Mexico right now, like a lot of excavations, a lot of people, you know, trying to disclose this. And Dana, as you said, just saying that they are modern artifacts. You know, I have the elders going there with the artifacts and telling, hey, we have this so that you show this to the museum. And they said, thank you, but we're never showing this.
Correct. Just to give some greater context there, it's no secret that the political environment in Mexico is an absolute mess, and it has been. It's been run by the cartels for a very long time.
No more.
So what's important to highlight and to recognize is that the National Institute of Anthropology constructed a museum in 1999 holding these artifacts in Ojuelos. So this is a government-sanctioned museum that unfortunately was subject to a huge cover-up. Cover-up included the Dr. Juan Pablo Garcia was the founder of this museum. It was a very small and basic building that had leaks and had issues. And eventually, when they were doing renovations, the artifacts were taken away and were lost or never returned. So that was many, many years ago. So, you know, in terms of the peopling of the Americas, in terms of the genesis of our species, in terms of our ideas of prehistory, this is so unfathomable to many people. And Cameron, if we can just bring up some of those photos, this is in 2019. These are some of the tablets. When I say tablets, we're talking about a library's worth of written, documented history. So you can pan to the next photo, and we're going to jump through some quick photos I've got to share. These are some of these private collections. All of those shelves have a specific grouping of these artifacts. We'll jump to another photo. You can see they stack like books.
Like library, exactly.
We call it the library to tie in what YssaH was talking about, because on every side, every surface of these tablets are vivid inscriptions. We'll jump to another photo. These photos are generally not available publicly, or at least are not platformed. You can see as Cameron's zooming in, there's so much detail on every piece. And again, even to reference the the INA document where they are claiming they're modern forgeries, they say that they're carved stones, which again is
So what is that, guys? Because I read the report from the Mexico Museum of Natural History where I think that's what you're referring to in 1999, where they said that these are all officially fake. But what does that mean?
The report was issued in 2014.
Okay.
There was a pre-existing museum. It's a lot like Peru. In Peru, there are unregistered, unrecognized archaeological sites that the government doesn't give a shit about.
I mean, it's a blessing that this happened, that they stated this, because then we were able to take these all around the world and study them. Because
that's the only way.
It's the best thing that could have ever happened. I almost got extradited to Chile because I took the DNA from the Atacama in Madrid, Spain, and flew it to Stanford to do the testing. And next thing you know, I mean, thank God, the board of Stanford protected me as one of their own. They have the world's largest group of lawyers in the planet. So they were like, oh, let them try to come get you. We have your back. That's one of the biggest brothers I still have in my Joker card in the back. It's great to have that. But when I looked at this, I was thinking, when I first looked at it, I was like, man, how is Nassim getting away with all this without getting in trouble? And then I found out about the 2014 paper.
Well, to be more specific, the Nassim's collection was acquired under a nonprofit research organization. These are not for resale. They're not for the art market. He saved the collection from the black market to be studied, which we did. Through my involvement, I became very close with the people who are the people who have the original collections and do the digging. So it's really the insider's story to tell. This is that tablet that I'm photographed holding. You can pan all around this thing. It is a three-dimensional, the surface finish is like porcelain. It's unbelievably smooth.
Yes, it is.
The engravings are, as we've talked about, tiny. You can barely feel them with your fingers.
And what is this rock? What is this rock or geo form? What is it?
To give some other context here, these are, in my research, have been shown to be chemically manufactured stone, artificial stone, what we call a geopolymer. They are not carved rocks. It's actually it's similar to a ceramic. It's similar, but it is engineered. And in the ET theme, the ET hybridization that's what unites Tula, Michoacan, Peru, Colombia, Japan. Mm-hmm. Want to give another shout out to Klaus Dona, because in the early 2000s, he had already collected incredible artifacts from around the world and showcased them in Vienna. This was just one group of these artifacts. Through my unique relationships, I've had the opportunity to really dig deep into this stuff. So in terms of the material composition, it's considered, again, it's assumed to be stone because it's not recognized generally that we can artificially create stone. Okay. This ties into the megalithic monuments around the world, the pyramids, the Olmec heads, Cambodia, Stonehenge.
Yeah.
These are all, if you've ever seen, audience, if you've ever seen the videos, when you ring these monuments, when you strike them, they ring like bells. They vibrate. It's because of the crystalline structure, like crystal glass, like your wine glass. Ceramics don't ring like that. And you can pan to, so this image here is the back side of the tablet. Each piece has so much going on. When you start seeing 5,000 pieces, 10,000 pieces, it gets beyond comprehension. These scenes are
Oh,
they're graphic, they're vivid, and they are telling a story about,
yeah.
you see in the artifacts mummification.
Yeah. What is this one, YssaH?
Yeah, yeah, thank you. Because I have seen a couple of them like dating that if you show like the common stream media, they will tell you, oh, they were performing a sacrifice on the ET. And I can tell you stories because it has a hole, and then they're holding like organs, what could
Right,
be
right.
hands.
So what is
So
that?
I don't know if you have heard about Jacobo Greenberg. He was a very famous quantum physicist. He was a pioneer here in Mexico. And he did a remarkable research. His theory was the synergic theory. And he talked about the lattice. He was doing studies with like telepathic, but, to the next level, like in interconnected universe, but he was a pioneer and at that level. And then part of the researches that he did were involving Mexican shamans. One of them, Pachita, she was super famous here in Mexico because everyone would come, like from all parts of the world, or at least from all parts of Mexico, would come to see her, to get healed by her. She would perform surgeries, like open heart surgeries, brain surgeries without anesthesia. And including what he said about that experience that he had that changed his life forever. There were also other witnesses that at some point the one that marveled him the most, she got a kitchen knife, opened the guy in the very same kitchen, or I don't know if it was the kitchen, but it was with a kitchen knife, at least that's what they say. And then she opened him, took the heart, and with the other hand, she had already quantum, like manifested from the quantum, from the holographic field mainly, another heart, placed it, and the man was alive. I know this can be very hard to believe, but if we're talking about advanced technologies, if we're talking about technologies that have been found coming from other constellations, from other dimensions that involve manifesting in situ, whatever you want, then that kind of technology do exists. What if what they were showing is quantum surgeries, holographic surgeries, and that's the goal? That's the main goal. So yeah, I just wanted to say that. And also that through the properties of the when you, as you know, when you enhance the specific waves that you're emitting to something in order to generate a charge collapse, or generate, like the collapse of the wave function, and then bring a plasma type of plasma, or to create any type of matter into plasma, that can also, and actually that's somehow it functions with even the molecular structure of our water, which is not plasma per se. It cannot be, due to the delocalizing process. Yet we can shape matter. And I'm mentioning this because Trevor was talking about the temples and so forth. So crystals, rocks, the way that they are being created, being taken into this plasmic field, converting them into their composition, their plasmic composition, and then shaping them into matter. That's not plasma, again, a solar plasma. I'm talking about Planck plasma, like with the very same 0 point energy, 0 point
Yeah.
field applying it.
Yeah,
Not
makes
go.
complete sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, just to chime in there, another aspect of what is depicted on many of the artifacts is a transference of genetic material. In our modern era, we can what we call abductions and the Greys and the modern UFO lore is very much built around bloodlines, genetic information, hybridization. So, you know, if Cameron can bring some of these images back up, you do see children and babies and different forms of beings interacting with each other. So I want to just jump through. I've shared so many photos, so I want to just share some here with the audience. For example, you can see this being holding a baby within its arms. You can see the shape of the head of this baby is elongated. You'll notice the snake, the rattlesnake specifically, is featured on these artifacts, which is generally symbolic of the gene sequence, the coding sequence, the helical nature of the DNA itself. And again, these tablets, not even just to highlight these, but the artifacts in general, they have been shaped, they have been formed in very peculiar ways. This image here, you can see a woman, right, holding a baby in her arms, as well as holding a baby up above. And if we zoom down, you'll see she's also giving birth to another baby. So that's 1, 2, 3 on simply one artifact.
Yeah, and if, by the way, I'm not to interrupt you, Trevor, but if you guys can just keep your be very aware of that being coming out of that sphere, because I will be showing another picture with something leading also and connecting to the Bugosphere.
Perfect. They're very much related, and this is what Nassim identified with Klaus all those years ago. Is they're showing space-time travel, wormhole technologies, and portal technologies. These are physically tangible objects. This is disclosure. This is disclosure. This is not speculation.
Yeah.
So I wanted to, you have these beings that are very much human-like. They have different features, different shapes, but
they look like my neighbors.
Exactly. But I mentioned to Cameron that I've shared so much, and I just want to jump through a couple more to give.
Yeah, sure, Trevor. Yeah, go for it. Just either share your screen or have Cameron, pick them up.
Cameron, he's lined up. That's that tablet that we've talked about. There's a lot on just one piece, but if this is another artifact that we've studied, you can see this glyphic language has a structure. Yeah. It does follow a pattern.
Why has nobody really got into these glyphs and translated them? I've heard so many different stories, of course, because they're so abstract. But there's so many experts out there that do this.
Back in the day, years and years ago, we 3D scanned all of Nassim's collection for that purpose, to digitally archive and use machine learning to help decipher them. All these years later, now with AI, this piece specifically that we're showing, here we are with more babies, extraterrestrial babies. We have a priest-like figure. The scale is hard for you to really comprehend here, but these are not just scratches in the surface. Mm-hmm. They're dimensional. They have they're like relief carvings. But the fingers, the lips, the eyes, we're talking like, again, 7, 8 micron. We're getting tiny. So in terms of forgeries, right? Mechanical rotary tools certainly leave evidence, and they cannot carve to this degree. To give you some greater context on the material that we're looking at, right? You see all the spotting, you see all the colors. Color is chemistry. What we're seeing is the degradation of the piece, the inner substrate of the piece, meaning the beige or white part is smooth to the touch and porcelain-like. The red part is much more rough. So these pieces are weathered. They are old. We've done a lot of dating to show that. And we'll jump to another image. Just sort of, here's another really, they're all so beautiful. You can see this blue, green, turquoise color and the red, rough material behind that. It's a lot like a glaze or an enamel in ceramics. These glyphs that are on, they're being carved on curved surfaces and retaining their depth. Mm-hmm. So the artisans, the people who made these, possibly ETs, possibly hybrids, we're working with tools and technology that is extremely fine, and we've talked about the energetic frequency of these artifacts. That's a part of it. This is the back side of that same artifact. We have the rattlesnake. Again, we have the ET figure holding another child, and a more human-looking figure to the right. Again, the common theme here is the exchange of genetic information, but it may be difficult for the audience to look beyond the inscriptions, but the material itself is what, for me, has set these apart from anything else. The colors, the topography, the textures, they're screaming at you if you can pay attention. These are not.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Trevor, but I must say that I do a lot of those codes. I have some pictures to share in a bit, but I do a lot of those codes. And also the rattlesnake for the Mayan or the area was known as Tzabek, which is very much related to Pleiades.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, these are disclosure up, down, left, and right. There's no two ways about it. They reek of it, really. This is another smaller piece. This is a concave surface. This is, again, very fine tooled, very fine detailed, and you have these. If you look on this image, you can see the red area beneath the glaze, beneath the enamel, exactly where the cursor is. When Emery and I were hanging out all those years ago, I would spend a lot of time with that dagger, that white dagger. And I realized that underneath the white porcelain composition is that red. It's a ferrosilicate. It's an engineered material, a lot like ceramic. So,
Cameron, can you keep it a little bit there, because when Trevor finishes, I just want to show you guys something about that image.
Well, maybe you can jump in now, because I got some more to share after this.
Okay, so if you see it like right through, you will see a lot of motion, right? It's like each one of those symbols were like beings moving. There is a lot of dynamics in between each one of them. We can also see that there is a very specific length, that almost like automatized length in which each one of those symbols is Greek, so those are pulses, so then we have that first layer. Then as we go into all that motion, we can create, again, from that very same motion, sounds. And then because this kind of language would not be emitted, like as we speak right now. It's
Right.
more about sounds.
Right.
Like now for us, the is wow if you chant it at the Great Pyramid. It would be like that depth of monosyllables that would be interacting, mainly because, as we know also in the cuneiform text, the meaning that has been attributed to each one of those symbols or hieroglyphs or whatever in ancient civilization, one symbol involves a universe. So again, to read it, to interpret it, uh, this is this is a whole game to play for, and they are giving away a lot of codes for us to tune into different frequencies and activate different frequencies. For me, this cannot only be just one translation. For me, this is, what do you want to connect with? Okay, then that translation. And yes, there might be, or should be, shall be a dictionary based on all of that, but they just don't want us to connect with that. They want us to activate universes through this, because again, we see all the motion and value that each one of the symbols represents through that. But anyway, just want
to
Yeah,
to
thanks for
add to
sharing.
that, when we were in private sessions with Bashar, we
yes,
inquired about translating this. He mentioned that we said, "Do you read left to right, right to left?" He says you read them together in context of each other. They are
yes.
one transmission, if you will. And
Yes, this is what I'm trying to say. It's alive, it's vibrant. What do you want to tune? Then different gradients show and appear depending on, but yeah.
and even with the images we're sharing on this platform, you can meditate with these symbols and really experience new doors of perception. I mean, truly, when you hold the artifacts, it's activating. It's a meditation you can't, resist. It's something that is, to that point, these artifacts are built with a purpose, which is something that Bashar had also shared. They're built with the purpose to remind us and bring us back into the recognition of our cosmic history, our cousins out in the stars. We share the same blood. We are related. So, this time of the uncovering of the artifacts and the research, and hopefully soon public exhibitions and places where people can experience them or gather, the idea here is that it is activating, it is transformational, and it really is not for the closed-minded people. I've been on this journey for so many years, and if you have an open mind, you will see so much more than what is perceived physically.
Yeah, I agree. These are all activating codes, and like you said, I'm so glad you said that, Trevor. A lot of the different, text and messages that we've seen in the libraries and these forbidden libraries is just that. It is one giant code that your subliminal mind can be activated. Your lineage has a lot to do with the amount of codes that you can see.
Right.
So there are people that can have a little bit more of an activation or understand certain different codes, like YssaH and you. Go ahead.
A funny anecdote to that is, Josh Sizzler is a great friend, and he's invited me to speak at Conscious Life Expo, Contact in the Desert, these fun events, right? Where we're all talking about ETs and contact and all the good stuff. When Josh will set up his booth and have 100 to 200 pieces,
Oh my gosh.
It's so funny to see the psychics like magnetized. They can't resist it. The shamans, the psychics, the healers, they're like, how are people walking by this? It's like the frequency, the energy is so strong. Josh and I will laugh to each other like, some people perceive it, some people don't. It's nothing to them. They'd rather watch a TV show or read a book about abductions. This is it.
It's funny. It is funny. I still get calls to this day of people that have still not experienced this, not knowing how involved I am, old friends and scientists. Hey, I want to get your thoughts on this. There's these. I bought a bunch of them at a conference. I must have spent $100,000. But what do you think? I just started laughing. Go watch the show. Go look up these guys here. It's just amazing how people are so drawn to this energetically,
Right.
and for good reason. I do believe. I know this sounds a little soothsaying, but I do believe the piece picks the person. And
many people feel that way.
And I see this happen time and time again, and there are definitely codes. I think there should be more. I think these pieces should be more interchanged. Like if there was like an app or social networking for these artifacts where people can hold on to them for a month and then it rotates around to a specific.
We're working on that. We're working on that actually. Yeah, because these pieces need to reach to a lot of people for sure.
So I was talking to Trevor yesterday, YssaH, about this because we can, with our technology, kind of like when I took the CAT scan, of the Atacama being, and made this. We can do the same with the artifacts for, of course, for education and training, and duplicate these, using whatever materials we want. And I know Trevor had some really great ideas, and getting that out, because it is the shape, of course, of the device, because these are devices.
Yeah.
And these are, we keep getting off on trying to read the two-dimensional thing. I want people to get out of that reference of just looking at it as a flat thing. This is an interdimensional, three-dimensional, 4D, 5D, 6D type of object that is a instrument. And I think the more people that can get hands-on, even like, well, that's the original, that's the real Atacama. But I've gifted an artist, took all my pictures and they carved this.
That's incredible.
Now, and I can't believe the detail. I mean, it is a little bit smaller, larger than this is the original. But you can see very dead on. And I found out that he printed like 1,200 of my pictures that I took of it and hand carved this. So thank you, whoever that was. And I still don't know this day who did this. I always wanted to thank them. It was delivered from a colleague of mine to me, and it was very, very nice. So getting back to, I think, educational wise, because these are activators, whether they're reproduced in however fashion, geopolymers, or into, as you were talking, bismuth, or whatever we want to do them in, they still have an operational significance to them. And we have done this in the projects when I've come up on crash sites and collected massive amounts of debris, and most of everything that we picked up, it looks organic. It looks like a rock, or it looks like a tree twig, but it's not. It's an actual device that works, but it needs the lineage and the frequency to activate it.
Like, just to say an example, we have the Bugosphere, and now we have all these artifacts that are popping out to the surface with that code. That's what most people hear about. The thing is that there are artifacts with that code that were discovered way before that the Bugosphere came into the field.
That's
so
true.
that's also very important to take into consideration. I personally have a lot of friends that collect pieces that are very much involved in the research, and that they had these pieces before, the Bugosphere. So unless this is like this huge majestic plan, or if we say, okay, we have the Bugosphere, the moment that it showed up, it starts signaling, to what? To a very specific network where it's coming from, and when it starts signaling, then all of these objects that that have this code, that have this frequency, as you were saying, Trevor, you know, like with these codes and so forth, then they start pulsing and being activated into the next level. Now, we have other constants that are playing in the field. We have a lot of activations happening solar-wise. We have a lot of activations happening in situ right now. Whether if it's 3i Atlas or all of these interstellar objects coming into the field, all of that is working through a unified field.
Right.
That
Right.
similar frequencies are beaming as waves into these artifacts. What for? And that's the important thing, which is if we consider the space memory network as DNA and reflecting into our own DNA, the moment that these waves are being emitted to the space memory network and activating it, it's activating our DNA as a mirror, as a feedback, you know? So then now that you're sharing images on the Bugosphere, I have some pictures. Um, oh, he's my amazing friend David. He's doing a fantastic job bringing quantum physics and quantum mechanics into the lab, because not all the engineers are very much into unified physics, but he is, and he has now designed a machine to power up the Bugosphere. And it's very consistent to some of Nassim's devices without even knowing, which is very interesting and was wonderful. The Bugosphere has now, there is a message that has been decoded by two scholars from different places, one from Italy and the other one, I think, from Greece. And they came with the same message. They decoded the same message. Again, they were saying that each symbol represents many things. So they were trying to, to compress it in one way. And I have it. If you want me to read it, I have it here. I don't know if you have heard about it, but I have it here if you want to.
Please share.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, go ahead.
This is the message that they say that it's written around. Okay. I have heard Lara that says that it's the writing from an anime, I think. But
Okay.
but they have researched, like if there is a connection with any of these writings to an anime, and nothing has been found. So, but they have found these symbols in the Sanskrit, that is consistent. We are not fixated with this translation, I must say, but this is one that has been given. Okay, so I'm going to read it. And it goes, in the great beginning, the primordial moment, the spirit, through the word, brought forth the birth of the races and lineages, leaving everything infused with the purpose of spreading and offering to the sun, to the heavens, the radiance and light of the universe and the realm of the seven worlds, of the planets and the gods. Then came the lunar phases, the harvests, and the sowing. The earth was secured, and cultures were formed, guided by two principal movements, the vacuum. It doesn't say the vacuum. I'm just pointing out the two principal movements, counterclockwise and clockwise, the vacuum. Each with its own direction. Abundance, teaching, and knowledge came into being. This was manifested from the highest, the most sublime, and the most perfect. It was then that the vortex was created with a great thunderous sound. Likewise, the wheel of time was formed, the astronomical wheel revealing itself in the cycles of the earth. Afterwards, the Absolute, the Most High, drew nearer the bestow, the manifestation drew nearer to bestow the manifestation of goodness and the generation of virtues, reverence for the sacred, devotion to truth, and the expression of a spiritual strength and heroism through harmony and perfect synchronicity. Thus was established the resonance of the 30 gods. After accomplishing this, the great vessel of Indra, commanded by the god of the atmosphere and the sky, moved freely with a mighty roar, for he had entrusted the solar warrior with ending the evil upon the earth. Finally, after the vessel departed, it left a warning of danger, a possible breaking of the world through atomic disasters, solar explosion, or destruction, where all could end by our own decision and responsibility. Thus, the great vital essence, the breath and creation of life itself, could be destroyed forever. So this is like a huge construction of the symbols. As you see, it's like the whole story. So we are going to take it to more people to decode it. But so for now, it is what has been interpreted by these scholars. And the two of them were, the two messages were highly consistent one with the other. Um, Another thing, as we know, the Bugosphere has been seen that it has inside. Well, I want to show this because we're mainly connecting with the artifacts. So,
I just wanted to ask YssaH, how do you interpret the carbon dating of the Bugosphere? How do you?
oh, okay. So before showing the screen, there were not allowed to be done invasive tests on the Bugosphere, due to Jaime Maussan's will. But then something happened, I will just put it this way, and someone did an invasive test on one of the two fiber optics. Two, not all the holes around the hemispherical belt are fiber optics. Just two of those black points are. So one of those was used for testing, and then it was finally delivered to Stephen Greer, and he performed two lab tests. One has been given, officially the results. The other one is still, they haven't revealed the tests yet.
Do they correlate?
The one was done. I'm sorry, what?
Do the two values correlate from the released one?
Oh, you mean because they were two public? Yeah.
I'm just asking. I
Yeah.
only asked because my samples of the Tula artifacts were in that same lab the same week as Stephen Greer's Buga samples. His came back at 12,500.
12,560. Yes.
Mine came back at 34,080.
Wow. Another thing, I don't know if you have done that, Trevor, but along with the carbon dating, have you also done a test on a chemical test?
Everything.
Awesome. Awesome.
This webinar is the first release, and we really actually haven't even got to the data yet. We're getting there, but this is the first release of some of that. I have an 85-page report that I put together on the artifacts. It's just a kind of a funny world. It's like Stephen Greer is carbon dating the Bugosphere. I'm carbon dating the Tula artifacts. There's so much publicity around the Bugosphere, and it's like crickets with the artifacts. It's like,
yeah, but look, here we have, let me show, because this will connect both. This tablet is currently in Ireland. Let me just, am I sharing the screen? Yes?
I can't see it yet.
I think I need to go into
Cameron, can she share that screen?
Okay, thank you. Now let me
There we
go.
go.
Thank you. Okay, so this was for me sublime. I was meditating with the Bugosphere this last time. I'm sorry, and this being presented to me, and I was explaining to like Inés and Nassim and David, you know, like what I had seen, and like this being full of light with codes and so forth. And then we went to David's house because this image is part of the book that he will recently be publishing and that I highly recommend. It's about artifacts, about ancient ET artifacts, about the Bugosphere. He's doing a remarkable job again. And then I saw this tablet and I was like, whoa, I know you. And then if we continue to see where it's coming from, hold on. I was here just playing, you know, like showing how to show people what I mean by the algorithms that are encoded. We see here, oh, hold on, here, okay, that this being is coming from the sphere. It's being poured into, or it can also be a wormhole, you know?
Mhm.
So we have the Stargate, and then we have the being with the code going through that wormhole and then redirecting all the way here. And we can also see the transfer of consciousness to very specific devices like these spectral spheres. So here we have, again, it's not the Buga code, but it's the easiest way to relate it. And then we have this language. So what I have been reading into these symbols is we have, for instance, here, what could be a pyramid and two directions going, like showing kind of a Fibonacci to, we would be two legs and a hemicircle. Okay. So then we all know, well, I don't know, not we all, but for the ones that know, in the Egyptian cosmology, the Kemetic one, when it talks about the creation of the pyramid, it says that, and even of life, like the beginning of times, that in the primordial waters, the huge sound of the primordial bird, the Ben Ben, was heard, and then the primordial mountain emerged from it. So we have a pyramid emerging. Then we have two waves, the quadrangular wave, and then we have this wave that is very much connected again to the Fibonacci, or would be the fundamental interaction of the vacuum if we duplicate it. But where I'm heading here is now, because I was tuning into the place where this was extracted from, even though it's now in Ireland. And it was extracted from the the hill of the bull in Ojuelos. So we know that the bull has two horns, okay? So now here it's showing, you know, and again, this symbol is not only in this tablet, but most of the tablets are coming from this hill, from the hill of the bull. So there are many ways, again, to correlate it as a unified message. All of these at some point come together. I won't go into many holographic visions that I have, but anyway, so if we see here, there is a vessel that is coming into the hill, and then we have these waves. And here we have, like, could be a Stargate and coming from here, the waves all the way here. Do you see my cursor?
Yes,
Yeah.
we can. I'm so glad you're using it. Yes.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. I was trying to. But anyway, and then the wave centralizes in the middle of these two pyramids or mountains. And then that vessel or arc is still emerging from it. Then we see the shape of a black hole. And then we see, or an eye, which a lot of people call it an eye, but it's like a singularity or in relation also to a black hole. And then we have this vessel again, angling and, like creating very specific, I'm trying to, just to simplify it, throughout the rest of these 4 ones, what we can see is how the Stargate that was here, or the like this rectangular vertical symbol, passed from here all the way to here. How from this structure with the hemivessel from facing downwards is not facing upwards. And how it has here already unified the triangle and the hemivessel. And the figure that was here now, it's now up, like on the bottom and upside down. So there is an interaction in between dimensions, in between fields. One, the information is coming from higher dimensions and then densifies all the way to materialization here. And then when that happens, we see that, like it's the polarization of realities coming into one. And here, for me, this is very much also related to levitation properties. But overall, what I wanted to say is that these symbols are very much how I perceive it and how I have partially decoded it, because I just did it a few hours before our meeting. In a few minutes, I felt it, I felt what they were showing. So this is another way of interacting with these symbols, how they are creating indeed a story. They're showing how two poles are coming together at the center. And for that to be, then you have the levitic properties of the very same sphere, and how all this information is coming from that higher dimensions all the way into manifestation and materialization in this reality. And for that to be, it's necessary motion. It's like when we're talking about origin of mass, they were not even taking into consideration the angular momentum, which is the motion. So how important is for us to understand, to comprehend that all of these glyphs are moving. They're not static. The message cannot be permanent. What if at every moment that we are perceiving it is shifting as perception is, but overall it's showing about the completion of all of that information, all that knowledge right here, right now, into one source, that it's being poured into this reality and bringing in those codes of those higher dimensions into this reality in between species.
No, it's fascinating. I mean, I see exactly what you mean by that. And I love your artwork, by the way. And it's a direct correlation of your downloads. I know we didn't get into that, but we all want this artwork in our homes, of course.
I will be send to me your address.
Yes.
Yeah.
Send them. Yes.
Yes, please. Let's exchange.
We will exchange. I will exchange for sure for these. This is great. These are great activators, just like what you're going through. And I know that takes a lot of energy to do. And
yes, it does.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Emery. I just wanted to show how the symbols are very similar to most of the symbols that I used. And I translated this like a while ago. And this is part of a vessel that has been recently found by this amazing friend, Geo from Geo Aliens, that is also a colleague of Mike Forrest and is bringing a lot of these artifacts into full disclosure. Actually, due to him is that I got to meet all the crew of the Bugosphere. So I'm very grateful for that. This is a very interesting form of language. Yes.
What was, when you're with the Bugosphere team and you have artifacts present, with the same symbols and everything. What do Jaime or David think about them?
That's a very interesting question, because now there are big things happening that are going to be happening. I cannot talk about all of them, but there will be like a unified disclosure, at some point, woven into a very specific place. It took a while, to you know how it is, because you both were very close to Nassim through the Resonance Science Foundation and the lab, the Taurus Tech. But when you are in the eye, you need to be very careful in how you put out information. You really need to give solid rock proof of it, like as you're doing, Trevor. And the same happened with Jaime. He had all these things that he feels them, he believes them, yet he needs like solid rock proof. So we can talk about that later, because then he's more than happy to support this. So there are already things happening, but yeah, that we really need to come together, and each one is doing amazing and remarkable things. The more that we remember that it's together in unity that we become stronger and create this reality, shape this reality, then we're capable to do co-creations, as exchanging tech, Emery, right?
Yes, it's all about that. That's
Yeah,
why we're doing this, and it reaches a lot of people more than you think. And like I said, this is an endless conversation for sure. But I know, Trevor, you wanted to also finish
show
up with
them
some.
the test.
You wanted to show some things. I wanted to get some more of your artifact relics on here so you can describe. I know you were on a roll there. We got off on some amazing tangents, which I love. And this is all very pertinent information moving forward.
Absolutely. YssaH, I'd love to connect with you and share some of my research so that you can pass that on to
Absolutely.
the crew. And I do believe that these artifacts deserve just as much attention or publicity as the Bugosphere has gotten. But the data that I have to share in the upcoming slides touches upon some of the topics that we've already discussed, one of them being the hybridization of our species. As you may know, in Peru, they're the Paracas culture with the elongated skulls. With Nassim, in 2019, we did gene sequencing on these samples. We did radiocarbon dating on these samples. So one of the images that I have to share here, if Cameron can pull it up, is it's not a, this is a, what we would consider to be human. And this fetus was mummified in combination with the mother. So these are biological specimens, genuine beings that have existed on our planet that are dissimilar from our modern morphologies. This baby was born with the head that big. The eye sockets are huge. The bone structure is different. The cranial volume is different. These are genuine specimens that we've studied. And this year, the Nazca mummies have become a hot topic. So this image here is an X-ray image that uses a special software to gain information on different parts of the scan. This is Montserrat. This is a known specimen at the Ica Museum, or the Ica University, I'm sorry.
Brian Forster has been very involved in this research. Actually, it was together, right? Brian Forster.
Brian Forster was involved in the Paracas studies we did. These are the tridactyl ET mummies
Okay.
that Gaia TV has done some stuff on, and the website is tridactyls.org to look at all the medical files. But Montserrat, the one we're looking at, has metal implants on her head, and she's also pregnant with eggs inside of her. So I think there's 11 specimens. Some are 3 feet tall. Montserrat is almost 6 feet tall. So in terms of tangible physical evidence, these are hybrid creatures mummified in Peru, that have reached the public domain. There have been so many of these in Mexico, in Colombia, in Ecuador that are either in private collections or are destroyed, are physically destroyed. People believe that they're demons. You believe they're the devil.
Yeah, exactly.
But if we pan to the next image, you can see that the artifacts, this is one in my collection. We have the fetus here in the image with the tridactyl features. Tridactyl meaning 3 fingers, 3 toes. We can see the cranial elongation. Of course, we have the glyphs. And if we pan to the next image, the backside of this same disc is a mother figure with a spirit or being coming from her navel as she extends her arm. So these are historical documents of this sort of hybridization of our species, and the tridactyls, the Bugosphere, it all is encapsulated in these pieces. Beyond that, there's a few more photos that get into the material science that I've been doing. But if you guys want to jump in, please do.
Oh, no, you're good, Trav. Keep going. This is some of the compelling stuff. I don't mind you covering some of this up to date.
This is the website of tridactyls.org. All of the data is free to download. These are files obtained by medical professionals with decades of experience, and the consensus internationally is that these are genuine specimens. Again, Gaia TV covered this in 2015. There's a lot to talk about here, but they tie in with the conversation that we're having and how the governments have tried to say they're dolls, they're fabrication, they're chicken bones glued together. It's nowhere close to that. And in the images that I've shared with Cameron, it'll get more into the structure of the piece of the artifact, the material composition of the artifacts. YssaH mentioned nanotechnology as being one of the avenues of these technologies, and these artifacts have nanotechnological characteristics that we did talk about. The crystalline components are very much like information receivers and transceivers. So it's not just the glyphs. The piece holds energy, it holds vibration, but this is a figure that is giving birth to these hybrids. So we'll keep going beyond these images. There's a few more I have, just more kind of high detail stuff showing the symbology. And this is another tridactyl artifact with 3 fingers and the elongated head. And we'll keep going. This is the beginning of this year. with my friend Mark Sims, who's been a huge contributor, huge supporter to the research. Again, this research is not being conducted at universities, at least not to their knowledge. The difference that my research has made this year is that I am personally conducting the research. I'm not handing samples off to third parties for their interpretation. I'm actually
Nice.
guiding the research with access to this really amazing new technology. So I'm really grateful for that. I'm really grateful for Mark Sims and other supporters. And this is how I've uncovered some of the chemical constitution that you had talked about. Essentially, no one has looked at these artifacts under an electron microscope before. So this year was some of the first investigations at that level. You know, with the electron microscope, you can see almost to the atomic scale. So we're looking at them in the finest detail that anyone has. And there have been some really interesting discoveries that were not expected along the way. As the story goes, one of those key features, here's this image. If you can look at the scale on the bottom right, is 30 microns. So we're talking about we're at a scale that's extremely small, and on the left side of the image, you can see all of the platelets, the structures. These are nanocrystalline structures. This is what the artifacts are made of. These are the ingredients of the artifacts. And if we keep moving on to other images, we're at 30 micron and a 5,000 magnification. Now we're at 20,000 magnification. We've been able to get images get up to 100,000 magnification. So these platelets and these structures these crystals were grown in place. They were manufactured chemically. Many of the crystal skulls, in my interpretation, were grown, not carved. Because they were grown, they were programmable, and they can retain holofractal, nonlinear information, right? So these images have never been publicly disclosed. I'm putting together my report, but if you can see the layering here, it's at a nanoscale. That is the artifact that we are observing, this piece here. Again, you see the greenish, blue, purple enamel or glaze, and the substrate behind it is that brown core composition. On the left side of the image, you can see where the sample was taken, the small white chip on the edge of the disc. So the image we were just looking at of those nanocrystals, that's from a sample half the size of a rice grain. So, you know, many years ago with Nassim and many other researchers, we would go back and forth and back and forth. Are they rocks? What are they? And from the beginning, I've always said they're not rocks.
Yeah, me too.
They're not geologically formed stones.
Exactly.
The first thing was they don't weigh that much. But one of the key elements is this glaze or surface composition. So this year has been significant to build the evidence to show that these are engineered materials using complex chemistry. These are not trinkets from a guy in a garage in Ojuelos. Okay?
Exactly.
And even
I kind of believe that a lot of these too, Trevor and YssaH, you know, looking at some of the things I've been involved with back in the day, you know, the fact that you're saying crystals and, you know, the platelet forms, this is engineered through harmonics.
Correct.
Okay, and this is what people really need to understand, the science behind this. Remember, since ancient Sanskrit times, we talk about sound before form.
Yes.
And this is a direct correlation to that. This is also probably made in a sub-zero gravity, zero gravity arena, possibly, or a vacuum of space of some sort. But the main part is they're growing this crystal, as you're saying, to the coating that is on the actual, it's the direction. So there's a lot going on these artifacts, that it's not just we're reading this and we're trying to interpret. This is an actual tool, an actual device that is emanating from sound, like we all are. And I think it's fascinating because it's not just the harmonics. Don't forget about the photonics. The photons of light to create that came from sound.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I agree.
We'll just
we could have so many levels. But anyway.
This image is another sample in my sample group, not from the artifact we just looked at, but of you'll see it at the end of the slide. So that, if we can go back, Cameron, that image before, sorry, one more. So remember I was talking about the glaze and the surface composition? You can see the blue-green, right? And the red. The red is the ferrosilicate substrate. It's the core material of the artifact. So when we zoom in, this is using an optical microscope. Using an optical microscope, there are limitations. You can only go to 2500 magnification. That's where you need to go into the electron microscope. So the next image is this sample under the electron microscope, okay? The image on the left is the image the microscope captures, okay? It's not the cleanest image, but it's the image on the right that's important to talk about. This is the chemical composition of the artifact in colors, color gradients, okay? You can see the different colors correspond to the elements present. The yellow is carbon, organic carbon. So if we can go to the next image. So this is the EDS report on this sample. You can see the baby blue is oxygen. The dark blue is silica, right? You can see those two images are congruent. You can overlay them and they're the same shape, okay? The carbon, the orange image, it looks like gum. It looks like resin. Notice how it's not distributed like the other elements are. So this is how I've demonstrated, first of all, organic carbon is not in stones. It's not possible. It is possible if it's an engineered material. But beyond that, when I mentioned that I've carbon dated the Tula artifacts, this is the research that allowed for that approach to occur, because the Tula artifacts have carbon inside of them. It's baked in the bread. It's part of the chemical
component.
Yeah, it's part of the formulation. What turned me on to this possibility is the work of Joseph Davidovits, who invented the term geopolymer. In his research, if you're familiar with the H blocks of Bolivia, Pumapunku, the famous H blocks, ancient aliens, yada
Yeah, I
yada.
know them. Yeah.
There's bird shit inside of the blocks. When Davidovits took a sample, he could see that they're not volcanic stone. They're reconstituted like a cement. It's artificial stone. This same scientist in the early 70s was given access to core samples of the Giza pyramids. In these core samples, he found human hair and air bubbles inside the sample. Not possible in sedimentary rock, limestone. This is what gave him the idea that it's possible that the ancient Egyptians formulated the stone. They cast the stone. Not everyone agrees on this, but the chemical evidence is present. For example, I had a conversation with Nassim a few days ago.
Yeah, I know.
He doesn't buy it. He believes it's all carved rocks or plasma or high tech, which
Yeah, more about the plasma.
Hey, it's possible. Until you show me the evidence, there's not a lot to weigh in. But the geopolymers, people are casting these in their kitchen, in their homes.
Well, maybe show the skull, Trevor, with the bubbles. If we have to go to my pancake theory, we might have to.
It's about mostly what he says. It's about the mold, like
of course.
To use geopolymers, you need to have a mold. So having a mold for each one of the, different, because each one of the blocks are different of the pyramid and of all those temples, then you would have needed to have like thousands and thousands of molds. It's just about that. But he just does agree on the geopolymers presence, on the artifacts. It's just about.
Right. I mean, that note of the casting of the stones and needing a form for each one is an uneducated opinion, because geopolymers do not cast like concrete or cement. They have a gel phase. They are workable. Like in Cusco, they look like marshmallows, right? They fit in ways that don't make sense. They curve corners. It's because, you wouldn't make a cast for each shape, but you can retain the material in fabric or in textile. And
so you do need a mold.
You can use a mold, and you can carve from an original cast. But let's not get stuck in the weeds. The evidence is clear. They're engineered materials. The student has become the teacher. Okay, I love Nassim, but it's really.
I don't even think it's about Nassim or anyone else. It's just more about bringing the information, truth into disclosure. And I do agree that these pieces are engineered. I do believe that it requires of a high technology in order to to create those things. So I do believe that it's very important for us to focus in that what the mainstream has said, like the old school about like what they have been saying of how all these temples were being created. It's not visible.
Yes, we can all agree the standard model does not work out. There has to be another element. So just to reiterate, it is impossible to carbon date stone. There's no carbon in it, organic carbon. So how did I carbon date these artifacts? It proves the theory. Again, these kind of projects really do need significant funding and significant resources. And what I've been able to achieve this year is like a shoestring budget, but it definitely opens the door for more people to weigh in, contribute, or prove me wrong, right? But if we can jump back to the data, I mean, this is the science. This is the real, tangible, physical evidence that David and Jaime will eat up, because you don't get this from speculation. You get this from doing the work. But if we can pan beyond this image, This is the artifact that was sampled that we just looked at with the carbon present inside of the material, right? And we can keep going beyond here. You can see the texture, the erosion. I only bring up Nassim and the whole story because...
Oh, that's amazing.
Yes, these are sub-micron resolution images. That means nanoscale accuracy. So the image on the top right, okay, is one glyph from the face on the bottom left. These are some of the most advanced microscopes on the market. And this is what
Wait, do you say that the image on the right, like what would be like those two fishes coming
the image
together?
on this image we're looking at,
Yeah.
this is one carved symbol on the face that's on the bottom left. So just for scale reference, you can go all the way down and see that. So you have the dagger on the bottom right. But there's some really, when you're looking through these technologies and at this level, you see things that the eye cannot. And there are clues. Someone made these, by the way. How did they make them? There are clues. And this is what keeps me up at night, because it's so fun to recognize what people can't perceive.
Yeah.
And if we pan to more images, there's some videos of, like this one, this is a video of that piece I'm talking about after it had just been scanned. One of the realizations that we had at this level was seeing that the material was soft when it was carved. Meaning it's not mechanically extracted. It's like your footprint in mud, right? It was soft and it left the imprint. I only bring this up because people have all kinds of ideas. Did lasers carve them? Blah, blah, blah. You would see the evidence for that. There's no evidence that lasers carved them. Remember, high technology is still in conversation, but this is like the physical evidence, right? Lasers work through thousands of dots that make a line, and there's a chemical etching. So this is the dagger also getting 3D scanned in high resolution. I'm just excited to share this stuff because
it's amazing. Yeah, it's truly amazing.
The bar is now much, much higher. And through my experience, I've been able to kind of navigate that. And these are some of the images that show how deep the carvings are. On the bottom right, you have the values. So this laboratory that I'm able to utilize is a working nanotechnology laboratory. They work with Boeing, Raytheon, Lockheed on the most advanced technologies. So by that measure, we're equipped with scientific instruments that are not publicly accessible, generally speaking. Mm-hmm. You can't really go to universities and get this level of research done. So I've been a bit rogue doing this, but I can't tell you how many times the door just slams shut when we're in conversation with universities, academics, anthropologists. So this is that symbol that we were talking about earlier. These are some of the measurements. And on the right side of this image, the colorized image, if you zoom in, Cameron, so you see the high ridge line, the red high ridge line. This means the material was pushed up. It wasn't removed. You know what I'm saying? It's exactly like your finger in wet sand. It's the same thing. And this does show that the artifacts were, I only circle around this point so much because it's a pitfall for people to think that, people with Dremels and rocks are doing this.
Absolutely.
Right.
And I bring up Nassim a lot because even in 2018, 2019, it was like the boy who cried wolf is like, yeah. They're rocks. It's like, no, they're not. And now I've got everything to show that they're nowhere close to rocks. Nowhere close.
Every time that people asks me what type of rock it is, I say it's non-organic by the way that it was composed, it was constructed, put together.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And for some people, that's too much or doesn't work. But if we're talking
I think in the future, not to cut you off, Trevor, knowing the technology that I know that's already out there and the technology of reverse engineered extraterrestrial artifacts is, they also are operating with nano tools, including as we know, which has been proven this past couple of years with COVID, the nanobots.
Yeah.
So there are nanobots that could actually make these engravings that we don't really talk about because it's such a pseudoscience, but the nanobots can actually, eat away at these and be programmed to make these designs. And that's still also through frequency and harmonics by training these just think of these little cells that are synthetic that are actually eating the polymers and making these designs in a fashion that's programmed by the entity or by the construction of the instructions that you guys are talking about reading these things. There's a lot of dynamic science that hasn't been exposed yet that will be exposed in the next couple of years to help you prove these theories. And you've already proved it as far as I'm concerned, but for the modern medical science Harvard professor, they're going to want to know, based off of current science, how that's done. So there is a lot of that going to be opening up, and you are on the precipice, both of you, on disclosing that.
And so the next images, the final images I have to share, are all about the Tula pieces. Okay, so it's a different collection, but it's the same research. So if Cameron can bring up some of these images, it does get into functionally technological artifacts. YssaH may be familiar. There are some of these Tula artifacts that produce light.
Yes.
That they have magnetic components.
Yes.
Okay. So, this is at the laboratory using X-ray imaging on this cube. So if we go to the next image, say it again.
That is a cube.
Yeah, Cameron can zoom in on the image. There's a whole lot more of this cube. But this cube we're putting it in the X-ray because it has a magnetic field, a measurable field.
I didn't say it, but one of the reasons why I came from Egypt to Mexico is because they told me, when I say they is beings, the galactic community told me that artifacts devices mainly would be popping up into the surface, and mainly cubes, so yeah. And I have been finding a couple of them, working with them, but go ahead, you were saying.
So this is all exclusive content. This has never been released before. This is some of the work I'm doing at the labs. These are mostly Tula pieces. You can see there's bone there. Here's the cube with this there's ambient light around us and it's still glowing very strongly. That is remarkable in itself, but that is the cube that we X-ray imaged. Most of my research has been focused on the Ojuelos pieces because that's how I was introduced to the project. And now through Mike Forrest and other collectors, I've had access to the Tula pieces, which no one has studied. Most people including artifact researchers, don't believe that they are genuine, but we're past that now, right? So if
Yeah.
Cameron can jump into, this, we could get sidetracked a lot, but the Buga chip, the Buga chip symbol is on this cube, right? The all-seeing eye is on the cube. This is the cube in the X-ray machine. I also took samples of this cube for SEM and EDS characterization. So if we jump one more image, Cameron, maybe one more. These are some of the X-ray images that were picked up. You can see a puck. You can see an embedded magnetic ore in the stone. Once again, not possible in a geologically formed rock. It is possible in something that is manufactured chemically. So you can jump one more image, Cameron. This video demonstrates some of this magnetic. There's an embedded magnetic component in this piece, okay? Beyond this piece, there are other artifacts that have much more complex internal circuitry and magnets.
Hey, have you ever put that below ferrous fluid and see what design it makes? Have you done the pole?
It's so funny you bring that up, because this cube is from a private collector, and I told them, you better go get some ferrofluid because that's going to be really cool to see. I did use a magnetic viewing film, which is
cool. Yeah,
it's somewhat similar, and the field shape is really interesting. Again, every single artifact could be studied, nearly into oblivion. But after, I think Cameron jumped around here, but we want to go back to the Tula stuff. What I want to share is the carbon dating results that I got the same week as Stephen Greer on the Tula pieces, which have never been carbon dated before. So it's just past this video. Here's some images to give the audience some reference on, YssaH shared some of her pieces that she has. These are the type of symbols that are found on the pieces. They're very much a consciousness code of, sacred geometry. They touch on basically all of that. So there's a handful of photos. That's, a spitting image of the Buga chip.
Do you have a clearer image of that central one?
Which one?
The one in the circle. No, the one that was no.
Not in this presentation, but I can.
No. Okay, if you can send it to me, I will appreciate it very much. That one.
Yeah, if you zoom in, you might be able to sort of pick it out, but it is.
You see a triangle.
It's the equilateral triangle with the all-seeing eye in the center.
Yeah,
and that's where the magnet is. That's the side with the magnet. And the shape of that magnet is very interesting. And if we keep going, this is the sample that I took from the cube, which we've shown has carbon inside of it. That's the sample location. You can see the little white dot. Yeah. So this is a core material sample. It's not from the surface. The surface was drilled away and the core was extracted for carbon dating. And if we did
you also do the materials testing on the type of iron core? What was that? Did you do that yet, or
no? There are limitations. That piece is in a private collection and was loaned for research, and they don't want to cut it open. But there are other non-invasive ways to figure that out. Yes. It just adds up so fast. And this is sort of why I need to get all this out there, is because
speaking of which, what would be super interesting is to tune into the central part of an obelisk and see if some of them, at least some of them, have cubes.
Right.
Power source generators and intertwined to a cubic nexus, perhaps even to the cube in the Mecca, Mecca. This is why they knew about it and they created that one. But anyway.
And this is another artifact. It's a broken tablet from Tula, but to do the preliminary research for carbon dating, it's already broken. So it was a good test dummy, I guess you would say. So this is the report. And if you look at the date, you guys talked about this report on your last webinar.
Yes.
Yeah, this was my samples and Greer's samples, I guarantee were in the same queue. So the results are...
Oh, right. Because you made it with Mike? Because he shared with me some of his lab tests that were from the Georgia University. So then I say, oh, interesting. Same time, same place.
Exactly.
Okay.
I'm conducting the research.
Okay.
It's
wow.
it's addressed to me. I'm doing the same.
Mr. Millar, who's that guy?
Exactly.
Dear Mr. Millar.
Mike has been a great supporter, and I've been trying to get in contact with David and Jaime, and the whole team is like, U.S. congressmen are coming to see the Bugosphere, and there's a lot of
David is super on for this. Actually, he's writing a book on this. He has already written it. I was encouraging him to do it now, translating it in English, because he has also like compelling analysis on all of this. He's also doing his own dating and so forth, universities here and there. So we can talk about that. Absolutely, because he's up for that. Jaime, it's very, very much into this. He just needs the proof.
This is. I wish he was on the webinar, because
I will see him on Wednesday. And we are conducting a research on a test on the Bugosphere, actually.
And I respect Jaime and I respect Stephen Greer and everyone involved, but it just seems that these artifacts are ignored or don't really get. There's a lot of data already, and people talk about it in private. But
how about I was talking to Mike that one of the guys from Ancient Aliens was telling him that it was all a hoax. That even without. So I am very aware of that, and I think there is something else, because people that is supporting this and not acknowledging the artifacts, there's got to be something more about it.
Yeah, there's more information on these artifacts than there are on the Bugosphere, and look what happened with the Bugosphere overnight. So there's so much you've already put into it, Trev, that it's obvious that this stuff has to be shared, and that's one of the reasons why we're doing this. But I think a great thing to do is just let's get everyone together and and do a launch, and I'll set it up for the whole day, so it'll be like 8 hours of everyone talking about the research and showing the findings, and then we'll have a big Q&A at the end, so the leaders, you guys, and all of us can get together and ask the questions, and of course people can watch this and come to their own conclusion, because it's not being shared properly across the inner circles, and there's disinformation being said as well, which discombobulates everyone of who to believe, who to believe, what not to believe. And that's why bringing in you guys incredible research to help support the findings is so imperative, because a lot of these things really need to be released for humanity and for the earth as well. And let's stay focused too. And the secrets behind these are going to be very compelling for our advancements as a conscious group of Earthlings here to move forward and to communicate and also heal the planet.
Of course.
Yeah.
The final content I have to share brings it all back full circle. The radiocarbon results that I shared just now and that you guys talked about in the last webinar, this was an experimental group, a preliminary group of 4 samples. We've redone this with a group of 12 samples, and all of the samples were in agreement. They all come back at approximately 40,000 years old. So the next image I have queued up for Cameron is the technological artifacts, the pieces that have functional capacities. So in the second sample group, this is specifically the artifact I'm talking about. And there are others, but this one specifically was carbon dated at over 40,000 years old. If we pan to the next image, just to get some reference, it is a vessel from Tula. It has the glyphs. The figure holds this crystal with copper terminals in its hands and on the crystal. And if you pan to the next images, you can see, just a gauge, a reference of the size and the shape of this. Again, how did they carve this? How did they make it? You can see some of the bubbles on the top of the head of the figure and around the vessel. The bubbles are indicative of rapid cooling. Air was being trapped. So this figure and the vessel are one piece. They're one. And if you pan to the next images, you can just see the carvings along the backside. This piece also glows with the UV light. It's also weakly radioactive. And the next image should show the illumination. It'll be the next image. So this is an ambient light, and you can still see this luminescence. This is functional technology. There's a video I've shared with Cameron that shows it at night with, low light to see the frequency of the light and how bright it is. But you can see embedded within the crystal, there's an electronic component. So this reaches a new threshold of what we're talking about. They're no longer jewelry pieces and tablets. It is functional, zero-point energy technologies from prehistoric times. This is not the only one. There are about a dozen others. But again, taking this vessel to top laboratories in the US, they don't want to touch it. They don't want to research it. I've been through it for so long, you almost have to snake charm them into wanting to work with you, because it's
right.
so this can't be real. I went to college and I have a PhD, and you guys are bringing crazy stuff around.
You're destroying their universe. Of
So
course, they're going to try to.
You're exactly right. There's to research this piece, we needed X-ray imaging to see what's going on inside this piece. How is it producing energy with no external power source? One of the laboratories we worked with required NDAs through and through, and these are the X-ray images we captured. This image is actually from the rock crystal, or the crystal component, and it shows embedded circuitry and wires, and those different gradients of color, they're indicative of the density of the material. So you can see there's more than meets the eye here. It's not just a crystal that was drilled into and they stuck wires in. You can see that component in the middle is the component that produces light. And it's very much like modern LED components, light emitting diodes. Now, the frequency of the light, using that frequency, you can actually back engineer what would create this. So this cylindrical shape is within the seated figure, and this is what we consider to be the source of the power. By the way, this artifact operates indefinitely. It never goes out, never runs out of power. So,
well, if it has the copper and it has magnets, that's electricity.
correct.
So, especially if there's any high vibe frequency oscillating back and forth, which is, of course, what's going on here.
What catalyzes the spark? The rock itself, like placing the rock?
That's right. And when I was present with this private collection, we use multimeters and other electrical equipment, and it seems that this form of electricity is unlike our modern DC or AC current.
You know something, Trevor, because this also happened with the Buga, because I do believe that it's very important to know that it's not one or the other, you know, like more important, at least how I see it, yet like both are connected to one another, and it's very important to give attention to both, to all of them, because then it all is disclosed. So what we were finding in the Buga is like it has some things about such advanced technology,
Right.
and on the other hand, it has things that are so like
Primitive.
basic technology. Yeah, I was going to use primitive, but it's like very basic technology.
Right.
You know, so like even the way that in each one of the where each one of the points are the black dots, there are engravings that they are not symmetrical at all. They're
Right.
handmade. But on the other side, you have this very high technology. So for instance, now the device that you were showing, you know, like it has like this, put the stone and it creates, you know, the electricity.
Right.
And then, but you see in the inside that it has technology from this, you know, like kind of LED technology. So there
It's
is
similar.
So
Yeah.
it's similar, but then you have like these sites that it's telling you something that for me we're still about to find out, you know, how all of this high technology and basic technology are put together.
I really agree with you, and the way I would sort of pin the tail on the donkey
Yeah.
is it's Atlantean technology. It's Atlantean. It's coming from an era before our modern mechanical thinking, our physics that is non-unified, right? So these operate in a way that modern technology is not exactly equipped to recognize. But there are other devices, and they're extremely anomalous in all ways. I mean, they, again, to produce light at this scale indefinitely is a small miracle, essentially, by our modern standards. But the in the ancient times, for the Atlanteans, you know, they transmitted, like Tesla, they transmitted energy non-linearly through the atmosphere, through our Earth.
Yes.
And this is sort of the flavor. I think that these Tula artifacts are more of the Atlantean crystalline type of technologies. I hope Cameron brings up this video of it functioning. It's there it is.
Yeah.
So this was unearthed in July of this year. This is a video from Mexico, but you can see it at night how bright that light is. In the images I shared before, you could still see it in ambient light, but that's a lot of light. for such a small device. And it's an open book. I invite David, I invite Jaime, I invite Stephen Greer. If you want to study this, it's yours to study, and other pieces. So I'm just excited to share this on this platform. And
Oh, that's fantastic, Trevor. Thank you.
of course, the private collectors who have these, they've got insane pieces. Insane. This is just, the one that they let me carbon date and X-ray scan. And again, it adds up. It's so much money to test these stuff. And hopefully we can either crowdfund or create a support network or university partnership. Hey, if you think it's fake, prove it. Prove it. I mean, come on.
That's a good one. That's a good
Prove
one.
me wrong is what I tell them, Trevor. Remember?
Yeah.
When I first met you, prove me wrong, this doesn't work.
And it hasn't worked out for them.
Well, that's what you have to do, though. I mean, and that's where the credibility comes in. And that's why it's important that you're reaching out and allowing others, the biggest thing, even with all my medical inventions, was to independently, and that's why I went with Chorus Tech. How am I here? I have a free energy device, and I've already had it independently studied, 3 times before you guys. But it's best to have another institution that's reputable to look at it and say, I'll never forget when Nassim approached me and said, "Hey, you did it," and it was just the biggest, like, thank God, that the device worked, and this is the same format that you're going to be going through, and we're going to help you do it, and we'll definitely raise the money for you and get it out there and get these things tested the correct way, and it'll be quite the journey.
It's certainly a group effort. I've got to give praise to YssaH and Inez and there's many people we can't even really name who are involved.
Right. Yes.
And to be honest, many of the big names you've heard about in media or podcasting, they're all itching to get involved, but they want to see more data. They want to see more stuff. So it's about to really blow the top off, I think.
Yes.
It's exciting.
It's like, it's here, it's around the corner.
Yeah.
And now we will even go into arcs. I can see how they are already calling, hey, we are here. We're waiting for you. Come on.
We're early to the party,
We're
ready to party.
Yeah, and now it is just time, because now the things how they are unfolding in Mexico, you guys are aware of it, and there are very interesting things happening that those areas in Ojuelos and in every state, there are other companies, or whether if it's the military forces or whatever, just starting to try to get on those lands. Not saying, of course, that it's because of whether they are building something.
No, they know. They know.
Of course they know, but but now they say, okay, we cannot say that there are artifacts here. So let's create something, and let's say that we are fencing this land because now it belongs to us.
Right.
Well, now it's time to act, and now it's time to come in unity, and now it's time to actually bring all together this into full disclosure, because it's like, there are memes about the 3i Atlas coming to Earth and saying, let's go to other planets. I thought we would be finding intelligent species here.
Exactly.
So
we're working on it.
Yeah.
Beam me up, Scotty. There's no intelligent life here on this planet, please.
But
they have not answered me yet.
This webinar is going to ripple out. This information is going to have people expanding their minds and expanding what's possible. I have to say, me personally, you know, being involved in the way that I have, I've had to like open my mind more and more and more. And it's just that's really what we're here to do.
Yeah.
We're here to expand ourselves, expand our consciousness, and to be alive right now is crazy. You know, we're at the crossroads of really the next evolution of our species. That's how I see it. And the Bugosphere, the LiDAR the tomography scans of the Giza pyramids showing the mega structures.
Yeah.
I mean, all the lore, all the myth is actually more true than what we've previously assumed.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's one of the most difficult things, to detach from the idea that what we thought would never be reality.
It is.
Yeah, it is.
Be careful what you manifest for.
Exactly.
And it's here, and it's a great time to be alive. And, you know, like I said, the new technology coming out for the underground scans, and which I've been preaching about for, 20 years, it's just going to get better and better and better. And it's going to even be more intricate in these smaller artifacts.
Yes.
So what you see, what we've done with the Giza pyramids, we've already been doing that, and we've now been doing it on a smaller level. And
so just to maybe leave a cliffhanger for the audience.
Yes.
My friend Klaus Dona is one of the original investors in some of these satellites in the early 2000s. He's the connection that got Nassim into the artifacts. He scanned Ojuelos already.
Oh, he's the one. Wow.
He scanned Tula already. And all I can say is there are tunnel systems, crashed UFOs, and biological specimens that are waiting. They're waiting for the right people, the right support, not to be destroyed, not to be buried, to be unearthed and recognized.
Look, now it rings a bell to me, because that name was mentioned to me over and over again for Tula, having done, like the georadar penetration.
Right.
So, and I mean, I'm using mine, not the machine itself, but I'm using mine. And I have read into definitely, like underground shafts being where they are precisely, and they're consistent to the marking points that they have put there. So that's very interesting. Thank you.
You're tuned in. All we need is YssaH, and
you don't need, like you don't need any equipment. Just bring me.
Exactly.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, congratulations.
Well, guys, congratulations on both you guys, and thanks for coming on. We're definitely going to be doing another follow-up, of course. We did go over a little bit, but there's no way we can stop, because a lot of this is pertinent information that is, like you said.
333. I'm sorry, because I know that you're Emery 333, and now it's
boom.
Where it's in 3 minutes. Yeah. Okay.
Isn't that's hilarious? Yes, I see it. So so moving forward, I want to just congratulate both of you guys on your accomplishments, and it's amazing that we were able to get you two together, and this is going to spark a whole nother, putting you guys in contact with each other, and also working on getting the collective rest of everyone together so they can hear you guys talk. And this is a great plug-in for them. So I'll be sending it to all them. You guys send it to them too. And we'll try to get another group of maybe 10 of us together and do a live event and just let everyone, show their findings, most importantly, because that is what the key, that's going to be the key here. So I'll start working on that. And I want to just thank you both for coming on, and you guys are dear friends of mine, and looking forward to working with you guys more in the future. And we're going to definitely do more of these in the future. So if you guys like more of this, please stay tuned. You guys can register at emerysmith.co. How can people get a hold of you, Trevor? Do you have like an email we can
Yeah, my email is harmonicresearchgroup@gmail.com. Instagram is Harmonic Research Group, and Twitter is my name, full name, HRG. I'm kind of just getting started in the online platforms and everything, but I gotta broadcast this stuff. No one's heard this stuff before, so I gotta send it out there.
Absolutely. No, this is all cutting edge stuff. How about you, YssaH? What's a good place for everyone to reach you at?
Omnivision.hunug@outlook.com. Also, my page, my website, www.hunug/akna.com. And yeah, my social media, YssaH Lib, and my YouTube channel, YssaH Arsati Libien. I'm pronouncing it in English, but it's Arsate Libien. So anyway, yeah, you can find me there. The website is still being polished. I've been in I have had 3 trips in a row, 3 expeditions in a row, nonstop. So I will take care more content in my website, but you can also reach out to me through there for now.
Fantastic. That sounds great. And you guys know how to reach me, cosmicmarket3@gmail.com, Emery Star Labs. I forget that one. It's emerystarscan@gmail.com, emerystarlabs@gmail.com. You can follow us again. Also, if you like this kind of content, my TV show, #1 on Gaia TV, Cosmic Disclosure, still going strong, and looking forward to seeing you guys there. There's a subscription here if you guys want to read up on more of this stuff. I mean, we're a little bit more cutting edge on these webinars every Sunday. As you can see, they're very detailed. And once again, I want to thank you guys. I want to thank Cameron, Commander Salamander, for putting this all together. Cosmic Television Network is our YouTube channel, which you're going to be able to rewatch this episode. And thanks for coming and helping us out. There he is, Cameron Clapp in the house. Thank you, Commander Salamander. We appreciate you. We couldn't have done it without you, of course.
Yeah.
The secret behind the scenes.
Yeah, we are live right now on the podcast webinar with Emery Smith, YssaH Libien, and Trevor Millar with this groundbreaking, amazing webinar where you guys are discussing alien artifacts, Disclosed, Part 2. And get ready for the next one, because this is just the beginning of the next threshold of disclosure.
That's right.
We love you guys. And, hey, comment, subscribe, like, do all the things. And we love you. We'll see you next time. Thank you.
Woo!
All right. That was just a video that I'm going to post out there. But I just wanted to come on and all the high vibes, all the love. You guys are knocking it out of the park. I cannot wait to see your 80+ page report with all these incredible discoveries and the scientific research that you've done, Trevor. Great job. We're stoked for you. And I'm nicknaming you Turbo Trevor. Let's send it. Let's go.
Let's rally.
I love you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. Love you guys. Thank you so much again. Thank you for all your supporters out there. Without you guys, we couldn't really make this happen. And just keep us in your blessings. We have a long road ahead of us. We're not finished yet. We'll see you next time.
This is the beginning.
We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, everyone.
Peace. See you next time, guys. You.